Chapter 13-14. The pilot's actions were so sudden that there was no time to react. However, Ce, who had just kissed Yunjian, suddenly reacted. He immediately moved away from Yunjian's tender lips and kicked the pilot viciously towards the left side of the helicopter door. Yunjian had already reacted. She followed closely behind Ce and pulled open the helicopter door at the same time. The pilot who had tried to assassinate Yunjian and Ce had never expected that Yunjian and Ce would still be so vigilant despite being so lovey-dovey. Yunjian pulled open the helicopter door at the same time. The pilot was kicked out of the helicopter by Ce. Then, the pilot fell from a few thousand meters in the air like a kite with a broken string. Yunjian could only hear a blood-curdling scream before it disappeared into the clouds. No one had expected the pilot to suddenly assassinate her and Ce. However, Yunjian and Ce weren't surprised. They were already used to such a life. However, what shocked Yunjian was that she hadn't discussed this with Ce beforehand. The two of them had actually worked together to kick the pilot out of the helicopter door. Just as he was thinking about this, a series of rapid beeping sounds suddenly rang out. Yunjian's eyes darkened and her expression changed slightly. Ce's tall figure was already in the pilot's seat. His slender fingers were typing a series of English buttons on the helicopter's controls. Ce's expression darkened slightly. This helicopter has been injected with the latest bomb. In 2 minutes and 49 seconds, it will ignite the engine and explode on the spot. Since the pilot had dared to assassinate Yunjian and Ce in the helicopter, he must have been prepared to die. There were many puppet assassins in this world. These puppet assassins were trained by certain organizations or important figures. These puppet assassins had been thoroughly brainwashed. At the same time, their greatest characteristic was that they were willing to sacrifice their own lives in order to kill their targets. This was because they had been implanted with the belief that sacrifice was glorious. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to understand this. However, these puppet assassins only obeyed their master's orders. The pilot had most likely listened to someone's orders and was determined to die together with Ce and Yunjian. Yunjian skillfully searched the helicopter for a parachute but didn't find anything. "There are no parachutes here," Yunjian said. However, she wasn't surprised. Since someone wanted her and Ce dead, they definitely wouldn't have prepared a parachute for them. This helicopter had been sent directly by an Hun's organization by Ce. This also meant one thing. An Hun was a traitor. But this wasn't the time to talk about it. "I'll force the helicopter to the lowest point and prepare to jump off," Ce said as he skillfully controlled the helicopter to descend. Ce and Yunjian both knew how to pilot a helicopter. For people like them, piloting a helicopter was just a basic lesson. "Okay," Yunjian nodded after hearing Ce's words. At this moment, the helicopter's door opened. Yunjian stood in front of the door and grabbed the handle. In just a short while, Ce had forced the helicopter to descend from a few thousand meters to a few hundred meters above the ground. "There's a lake over there. We'll jump on the count of 3. Ce changed the direction of the helicopter to a lake. Then, he stood behind Yunjian and wrapped his arms around her waist. At this moment, there were still 10 seconds before the bomb exploded. This was the fastest speed possible. They had to control the helicopter and jump from a few thousand meters above the ground in less than 3 minutes. If it was someone else, they would have been at a loss. Chapter 13-15. 3. Ce started counting. Just as Ce counted to 3, he suddenly changed his tone and changed the number from 3 to 1. As he spoke, Ce hugged Yunjian's slender waist from behind and jumped down from the helicopter with Yunjian in his arms. At this moment, they were less than 10 meters away from the surface of the lake. The bomb on the helicopter was about to explode. If Yunjian and Ce didn't jump down by now, the helicopter would explode. When a helicopter exploded, there would be a strong momentum. If one was not dozens of meters away from the helicopter, it was very likely that one would be directly blown to death by the momentum of the helicopter explosion. Even if they were tens of meters away, it wasn't guaranteed that they would be safe. Therefore, they had to jump down before the bomb exploded. Otherwise, the probability of death was as high as 99.9%. The moment Ce hugged Yunjian and jumped down from the helicopter, Yunjian felt that his sturdy back was shielding her from any danger. Ce purposely stood with his back facing Yunjian and jumped down from the helicopter. Just a few seconds after they jumped down, the helicopter behind them that was smashing towards the center of the lake exploded. There was also a deafening boom sound, which scared the surrounding residents into thinking that it was an earthquake. One by one, they ran out of their homes. Ce groaned. He hugged Yunjian's body tightly and jumped into the water with Yunjian. Ce's front was tightly pressed against Yunjian's back. After they fell into the water, he grabbed Yunjian's small hand and swam towards the lakeside with Yunjian. The loud explosion just now had attracted a lot of attention from the surrounding residents. Now, the lakeside was filled with foreigners to Yunjian and Ce. However, no one was willing to help at this moment. After all, the locals naturally didn't dare to help these two people who came out of nowhere and caused such a huge commotion. At this moment, Ce had already pulled Yunjian to the shore as fast as she could. The people standing around were a little scared and didn't dare to step forward. This was just a village, and it was 7 or 8 o'clock at night. There were no street lights around. The surrounding people were using torches to illuminate the area. It was clear that this place was not far from Country B, but Yunjian and Ce did not know where it was. However, it was clear that this place was not particularly rich at first glance. Moreover, the lighting here was still primitive torches. After Ce and Yunjian came ashore, Yunjian finally saw Ce clearly. He was still wearing the white short-sleeved shirt that Yunjian had bought for him, but at this moment, the back of the white short-sleeved shirt was already soaked in blood. Yunjian suddenly realized that when Ce jumped out of the helicopter just now, his back was facing the helicopter. He used his body to hug her tightly and protect her at the same time. He didn't let her get hit by the debris and the strong impact of the explosion. However, the price he paid was that his back was bleeding profusely. She could imagine how painful it was just by looking at it. However, Ce didn't even cry out in pain. He just hugged Yunjian. In fact, if Ce hadn't protected her, she wouldn't have gotten hurt at all. Yunjian would have at most suffered some minor injuries from flying out of the helicopter and some scrapes from the debris. However, Ce's actions just now had prevented her from getting hurt at all. He would rather get hurt himself than let her get hurt in the slightest. Yunjian didn't know what to say at this moment. She looked at Ce's handsome face, which didn't even frown. Yunjian wasn't good at expressing her feelings, but at this moment, she was so touched that she would agree to anything he wanted her to do without hesitation. Chapter 13:16. Now was not the time to talk about this. Yunjian stood up and looked around before asking in fluent English, "What's the matter? Does anyone have a knife, hot water, or a towel? Lend it to me and I'll thank you handsomely in the future." The most important thing now was to deal with the injury on Ce's back. Ce did not treat the injury on his back as an injury at all. Despite the stinging pain, Ce acted like he was not injured at all. Instead, he stood up and pulled Yunjian to check her up and down. He was relieved when he saw that Yunjian was unharmed. As for the injury on his back, it was nothing. Yunjian asked in English because she did not know where they were. English was the world's common language. No matter how poor this place was, there should be someone who knew English. In spite of it, Yunjian was right. There was someone who knew English here. Just as Yunjian finished her question, a young girl around the age of 12 or 13 came out and told Yunjian in the same English as she looked at Yunjian, "Jijia, I have one at home. Let's go to my house." The girl was pretty with big eyes and a small nose, but she was dressed in rags. Thanks." Yunjian nodded and followed the girl to her house with Ce. Yunjian used a knife to remove all the shrapnel from Ce's back and treated all his wounds. The strands of hair that flew out from the explosion of the helicopter were so strong that they sank into Ce's back. The wound was deep as well. If an ordinary person were to suffer such a severe injury, they would have died long ago. When Yun Jian treated Si Yi's wounds, he kept his head turned to look at her. Even when the pain was unbearable, he did not cry out. When Yun Jian used the crude equipment as surgical tools for the operation, Si Yi suddenly told Yun Jian, "Xiao Jian, let's get married." Yun Jian was stunned. Then she said, "We're not at the age of marriage yet." Moreover, hadn't they already signed a marriage contract in the Yulong continent? Yun Jian's cheeks flushed slightly. "Let's go abroad to get a marriage certificate. Country R will be enough." CE listed a bunch of countries where girls could get married at the age of 16. In the end, CE said, "When we're of age, we'll go back to country Z to get a marriage certificate." He couldn't wait to pluck her beauty. Yun Jian lowered her head, but she was actually avoiding Si Yi's gaze out of shyness. After a while, Yun Jian said softly, "Okay. As long as you get better soon, we'll get married." Yun Jian agreed. He was already so hurt because of her. She thought about what Ce had done for her. Yun Jian felt that she would give Ce anything she wanted. Although the tools were temporary and could not even be considered surgical tools, the operation was a success. Just as Yun Jian came out of the straw hut, the little girl who had lent her the tools came up to her. "Jijia, brother should be all right, right?" the girl asked obediently. "He's fine," Yun Jian said and thanked her. Yun Jian saw that the straw hut was filled with people. No doubt, they were all here to watch the show. When she came back just now, Yun Jian asked the girl where they were. Yun Jian also found out that they were in country B, but they were about to leave the country. It was the border between country B and another country. Just as the girl finished her question, a careless and ugly woman came out from the side. Glaring at the girl fiercely, she walked over and grabbed the girl's ear, scolding her in country B's language that Yun Jian could understand. Chapter 13-17. The woman was very ugly. Her face was covered with red pimples, and her nose was flat. She was so fat that she looked like a woman who could barely walk. She grabbed the little girl's ear and scolded her. Then, she slapped the little girl in front of everyone. The slap caused the little girl to fall to the ground. There were no dialects in this village. Everyone used country B's language to communicate. Therefore, Yun Jian could understand the discussions of the people around her. After seeing the little girl being slapped by the woman in front of everyone, the surrounding people began to whisper. However, Yun Jian heard everything. "Lily is really pitiful. She lost her mother when she was young. Her father is really too much. He didn't take care of Lily since she was young and didn't earn money to support the family. All these years, Lily went out to work to earn money for the family's expenses. What the hell is going on? Her father doesn't earn money and goes out to play every day. That's fine, but he even married a hag. Sigh, this way, not only does Lily have to earn money herself, she also has to be beaten every day. Isn't that right? Do you know about this? 2 days ago, this hag accepted the betrothal gift from the neighboring village's village chief, Lameda. Hey, you don't know. Lameda is already 56 years old. One of his feet is already near the edge of his coffin. Lily is only 13 years old. If Lily marries him. Lily was the little girl who kindly brought Yun Jian and Ce home and provided Yun Jian with the things she needed to complete the surgery. She even arranged for Yun Jian and Ce to stay in the thatched hut. Lily's clothes were very simple. At most, they could only cover some of the important parts of her body. It was already unimaginably tattered. After hearing the words of the surrounding people, Yun Jian finally understood Lily's background and situation. Yun Jian would never forget that Lily had helped her just now. Talk, talk, talk. What nonsense. Get the hell away from me. Lily's stepmother, who was also known as the hag, turned her head and shouted at the crowd, cursing them with a few words of abuse. After scolding, the woman turned her head and twisted Lily's ear. Then, she turned her head to look at Yun Jian. She didn't do anything to Lily again. Instead, she said angrily to Yunjian, "Get the hell out of my house. My family can't afford to raise you too." As she spoke, the woman scolded Lily in a low voice, "Bah, you useless thing. Don't you think you've caused enough trouble? This time, he actually dares to bring back 2 living adults for this old lady. This old lady can't afford to raise them." In fact, the family's livelihood depended on Lily moving bricks to earn money. But all the money went to Lily's stepmother, a woman named Ya. Ya was the woman's name. It was a very pleasant name, but when it was applied to a woman, it was unbearable. "No. Don't drive my sister and brother away, okay? I can earn more money. I can move bricks a few more times. I can do more work. Please don't drive my sister and brother away, okay? My sister and brother fell into the river. My brother is seriously injured. They won't have anywhere to go." When Lily heard this, she immediately knelt down and begged Ya. Lily didn't call Ya mother or mother. Lily was a very kind girl. Usually, when she saw injured animals like rabbits in the mountains, she would bring them home. When the animals recovered, she would send them back to the mountains. Lily's kindness was obvious to everyone. Ya was a very vicious woman. After hearing this, she ran to the side and pulled out a long rattan. Then, she rushed to Lily and waved her hand. "They're pitiful, but I'm pitiful too. You wretched girl, useless thing. This old lady will whip you to death." As soon as the last word was spoken, Ya waved the rattan vines and whipped Lily's body. Lily was so scared that she closed her eyes. But the rattan didn't succeed in whipping Lily. A pair of white little hands grabbed the rattan that was waving in the air. Chapter 13:18. Hearing Yunjian's words, Ya's eyelids twitched violently. Especially when she saw Yunjian's sharp eyes. Ya was fierce and unruly, but she had never seen such a terrifying murderous intent in a little girl's eyes. Those eyes stared at her as if she wanted to kill her. After all, Ya was just a little woman in Country B. She was shocked by Yunjian's stare, but then she pretended that she was not scared by Yunjian. After Ya cleared her throat, she scolded Yunjian back. "Why should I let go just because you asked me to? Who do you think you are? You used my knife, water, and towel, and you think you're in the right? Oh God, how can there be such a shameless person in this world?" Ya began to wail loudly in a mournful voice. However, she saw that Yunjian had already pulled out the rattan. She waved it gently, and the rattan was directly caught by Yunjian. Then, she whipped Ya hard. Ya fell to the ground after being whipped by the rattan. She took a few deep breaths. After being whipped to the ground, Ya actually did not feel any pain, but she began to shout loudly again. "Oh God! You hit me! You killed me! My good intentions are not rewarded. If you say another word, I'll kill you right now." Yunjian's words directly interrupted Ya's crying. However, Yunjian threw away the rattan. She directly took out a dagger from her trouser pocket, then pulled the dagger out of the scabbard and threw it at Ya. Yunjian did not use the butterfly knife because she did not need to use it to deal with this kind of person. At that moment, the saber flew over Ya's head without missing a single bit. Ya suddenly froze in shock. She stood there in a daze. She could clearly feel the knife flying over her head. The knife flew over Ya's head and stabbed into the soil behind Ya. This unique skill shocked the group of people around. Without a doubt, Yunjian's move just now was really amazing. However, she saw Yunjian pull Lily aside and walk to the side. Ya was frightened by Yunjian. She didn't dare to make another move. At this time, Yunjian had already pulled Lily to her room. Lily told Yunjian a lot of things. Of course, she also talked about her background and where they were. Lily lowered her head when she talked about her background. She said to Yunjian, "My stepmother will sell me to someone else in a few days, but I already have someone I like." Lily said that the person she liked was also very poor. They had met when they were carrying bricks together. The boy she liked was 15 years old this year. He had gone to school before, so he knew a little English. Lily wanted to go to school, but she had no money. Therefore, when Lily knew English, she secretly learned it from the boy. Yunjian asked Lily some questions and listened to Lily talk about her background. She closed her eyes and made up her mind. Yunjian slept with Ce. The next day, Yunjian was disturbed by a commotion outside the door. When she walked out, she saw 3 or 4 men trying to drag Lily away. At the front was an old man in his 50s or 60s with a cigar in his hand. He was old enough to be Lily's grandfather. This old man was the village chief of the neighboring village, Lameda. In this poor place, his family was very rich. Bah, useless thing. I really can't tolerate you for a day. Hurry up and leave. It's lucky for you to be able to follow village chief Lameda. Ye cursed at Lily. It was Ye who called village chief Lameda and asked him to take Lily away quickly. Village chief Lameda had already taken a fancy to Lily. At this moment, he couldn't wait to press Lily under his body and beg for pleasure. Therefore, when he heard that Ye wanted to take Lily away, he came over early in the morning. Yunjian saw village chief Lameda calling for people to drag Lily away. Seeing this scene, Yunjian's eyes darkened again. Just as the 3 to 4 men were about to put Lily into a sack and forcefully take her away, a sharp female voice sounded. Her voice carried an irresistible majesty. Chapter 13:19. Yunjian's frivolous voice carried a trace of dignity that couldn't be underestimated. Even the few men standing in front of her trembled when they heard Yunjian's words, but they quickly reacted. Who the hell is this? Lambada was originally smoking a cigar when he suddenly heard a female voice that he had never heard before. He was immediately stunned and turned to look at Yunjian. Lily was already half stuffed into the sack. She was rolling around and wanted to come out to say something, but was stuffed back into the sack by the few men. Because her mouth was covered with black tape, she could only make muffled cries for help. Lambada was already impatient to make a move on Lily. Now that he suddenly heard Yunjian's voice, he immediately looked over with a hateful expression. It's the people that my family brought back. Lambada, yesterday that woman even threatened me with a knife. I was threatened to take them in. You have to make a decision for me. This woman is too arrogant. My small family can't afford to raise them. This is going to cost us our lives. Chief Lameda. You seem to have found a savior in front of Lambada. She started to cry for help, just like a rude and unreasonable shrew who wanted to catch a thief and find someone to reason with. However, Lambada naturally didn't want to get involved in this muddy water. Lambada's goal was only Lily. Hey, you deal with this matter yourself. I don't have the authority to deal with the matters of your village. Lambada didn't take Yunjian's words seriously. Instead, he waved his hand at Ye and impatiently pushed her away. Then Lambada waved his hand and signaled the 3 or 4 men to carry Lily, who was already in the sack, and leave. Didn't you hear what I said? Just as Lambada waved his hand and signaled the 3 or 4 men to carry Lily away, Yunjian's voice faintly sounded again. This time, Lambada wasn't stunned by Yunjian's sharp words like before. Instead, he felt that Yunjian's words were like a joke. Go, what can a little girl like her do? Can she do anything to us? Lambada waved his hand and said disdainfully. When Ye saw that the village chief didn't care about her anymore, she became anxious and rushed forward to stop the village chief. Hey, village chief, you can't leave. If you leave, what should I do? Yes, village chief, you can't leave. Scram. Lambada pushed Ye away. Just as he was about to order his men to carry Lily away, a voice rang out from behind him. Lambada felt as if someone had kicked him in the back. Then Lambada very clearly felt that he was kicked to the ground. After Lambada was kicked to the ground, he caught a glimpse of a black shadow passing by him at the speed of light and going straight for his 3 or 4 men. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of 3 bodies falling to the ground could be heard. In the next second, the 3 men brought by Lambada were kicked to the ground by Yunjian. Lambada reacted at this time and wanted to stand up. At this time, Yun Jian stretched out her leg and stepped on Lambada's back. Her cold voice sounded at the same time. I'll give you the money for Lily. Also, you better disappear from my sight immediately. Otherwise, I'll call Pierre over tomorrow and we'll have a good discussion. Yun Jian's words made Ye and Lambada straighten their backs. Pierre, wasn't he the president of Country B? Chapter 1320. As luck would have it, she did know Country B's president, Pierre. Looking at Ye and Lambada's shocked faces, Yun Jian was extremely calm. You know, Mr. President? Not only was Ye shocked, even Lambada, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian, trembled and asked Yun Jian in a horrified voice. Lambada was the head of a village after all, and Ye was just an ordinary woman from the countryside. Ye's shock was definitely greater than that of village chief Lameda. Looking at their shocked expressions, Yun Jian crossed her arms in front of her chest and stepped on Lambada's back with one foot. He's just a loser, Yun Jian said without exaggeration. Back then, Yun Jian had received a mission to kill the ministers under Country B's president, Pierre. At that time, Pierre had just become the president and needed the support of his ministers to strengthen his position. Yun Jian killed the ministers under Country B's president one after another, which almost drove Pierre to the brink of despair. Pierre was considered a capable person. After searching for a long time, he finally found Yun Jian. Then, he offered her a lot of money and begged Yun Jian not to kill his men. It was not an exaggeration to say that he knelt and begged her. That was because Country B could not find Yun Jian even if they mobilized all their military forces, let alone kill Yun Jian. Pierre did that because he was at his wits' end. Yun Jian had already completed the mission and planned to stop. However, Pierre had given her so many priceless treasures. How could she not accept them? Who could say no to money? Later on, Yun Jian accidentally heard from others that Country B's president, Pierre, was afraid that she would suffer from sequelae. There was once when someone mentioned the name, slaying God, in front of Pierre. He was so frightened that he rolled off the dining table in a sorry state. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lambada and the rest did not think that Yun Jian was joking at all. After all, everyone had seen Yun Jian's ability earlier. How could an ordinary little girl be so powerful? If it was an ordinary girl, with the actions of Lambada village chief just now, she would have been scared to the point of crying for her parents. Cough cough. The village chief had no choice but to look at Yun Jian again. After staring at Yun Jian for 2 seconds, he said to Yun Jian weakly, Do you really know the president? Regardless of whether it was the village chief or Ye, the identity of the president was a figure that they would never see in their entire lives. Therefore, when they found out that Yun Jian knew the president, regardless of whether this matter was true or not, the attitude of the village chief and Ye towards Yun Jian would be greatly reversed. Yun Jian had already lifted her foot from Lambada's back. At this moment, she was standing coldly to the side. But you are just the president of B country. Do I need to talk nonsense? Yun Jian said softly. The village chief's eyes immediately turned. He quickly ran over and kicked the 3 or 4 men who put Lily into the big sack, and then roared in a low voice, "Hurry up and let go. Let go." The 3 or 4 men were shocked, but they quickly pulled Lily out of the sack, and then untied the black tape on her mouth. Lily took a few breaths loudly, but there was no trace of fear on her face. At this time, Lily's stepmother, Ye, also ran to Yun Jian. She changed her previous shrewish look, and now she even flattered Yun Jian. It was my fault before, I deserve to be beaten. I deserve to be beaten. Don't hold a grudge. I have a sharp tongue but a tofu heart, Yun Jian didn't listen to what Ye said. She took a step back, and then said to Ye, "I'm not interested in your business. We will stay here for 2 days, and all the money used will be paid back double." Chapter 1321. She was determined to get involved in Lily's affairs. Lily had helped her before, and Yun Jian had always been a vengeful person. Moreover, it was just a small matter to her, but to Lily, it was a major event in her life. Yunjian lowered her eyes at the thought of this. Ye was still standing in front of Yunjian. When she saw Yunjian's lowered eyes, she felt a little afraid. It didn't matter if Yunjian really knew the president of Country B. If this matter was true, she wouldn't be able to compensate for it even if she had 100 heads. Yunjian turned around and was about to enter the house, but she paused for a moment before turning to look at Ye. Her red lips curled up slightly, and her smile was a little strange. I hope I never have the chance to see that scene again. Otherwise, I'll catch that old man Pierre tomorrow and have a good talk with you. After saying this, Yunjian knew that her words were fatal to village chief Lambada and Ye. In other words, they were all afraid that she would really invite the president of Country B here. Therefore, Lily wouldn't be in danger for the time being. As for her and Ce leaving the village, Yunjian believed that after she lost contact with Ce, Snake, Lizard and Snow Eagle would definitely find the site of the plane crash and find this place very quickly. That was why Yunjian said that she would stay here for about 2 more days. After Yunjian entered the house, she closed the door. When village chief Lambada saw this, not only did he not stop her, he even heaved a huge sigh of relief. Then, village chief Lambada led his men and fled without even asking Ye for the money for the betrothal gift. Lily also heaved a huge sigh of relief, and Ye didn't dare to make things difficult for her. After Yunjian entered the house, she saw Ce sitting at the head of the bed and watching her enter the house. When Yunjian saw this, she walked over and sat beside Ce. Then, she stared at him for 2 seconds before shifting her gaze to his bare shoulders and back, and the hideous scar. She pursed her red lips and asked softly, "Does it still hurt?" She had already removed the shrapnel that pierced Ce's back when the plane exploded. However, his back was still covered in scars that were hard to look at. Ce had been injured before, but this time, it was purely because he did not want Yunjian to have any bruises, which was why he was heavily injured in exchange for it. Hearing Yunjian's slightly hoarse voice, Ce pulled Yunjian into his embrace with his bare chest. "It doesn't hurt," he said softly to Yunjian. His voice was so gentle that it didn't sound like Ce's usual style. The way he treated Yunjian was always different from the others. "Don't be like this in the future. You could have been fine, Yunjian was about to say something. Ce covered her mouth in time. Yunjian braced her palms against Ce's bare chest. She was afraid of touching the wound on Ce's back, so she dared not hug him back. Although the wound on Ce's back did not touch the heart or other organs, it hurt the most when it was a superficial wound. If an ordinary person was injured like this, they probably would not even dare to move. The slightest movement would cause unbearable pain. Ce, however, did not care. His favorite Xiao Jian was right in front of him. How could he hold himself back? That would be, Ce kissed Yunjian's lips. Soon, both of them had unknowingly removed their clothes. Ce had even reached out to remove Yunjian's jeans. Just as he removed Yunjian's jeans, Ce saw that Yunjian's panties were stained with blood. Ce's brows furrowed deeply at the sight. Losing all of his emotions, he placed his hand on the bloodstain in Yunjian's panties and was about to pull it off as he muttered, "What are you doing?" Chapter 13:22. There was a hint of anger in Ce's words. It was the kind of anger that came from discovering that Yunjian was injured, but she did not tell him right away. Looking at Yunjian's underwear, it was covered in blood. Just by looking at it, Ce could tell that the depth of the wound was probably deeper than his. She did not even say anything. Ce reached out to tug at her, wound angrily. Yunjian, who had not realized what was going on just now, suddenly snapped back to reality. Yunjian had never had a sense of timing when relatives visited. She had been on her period ever since she took over this body. In her previous life, Yunjian did not have a sense of timing when relatives visited either. Most of the time, it came when she was on a mission. Even when her period came, she still had to get into the water. Even if she had to fight a bloody battle, she had to complete her mission. In this regard, Yun Jian had taken good care of herself after her rebirth. In spite of it, Yun Jian had never had a sense of timing when relatives visited. It was always Qin Yiru who helped her prepare the things she needed to change into. This time, Yun Jian was completely unprepared. She didn't even realize that her period had come at this time. What was even more awkward was that she did not bring sanitary pads with her. Don't. It's not an injury. Yun Jian pressed Siyi's hand at once. In spite of it, her cheeks were flushed red, making Yun Jian look even more embarrassed. There's so much blood, It's not an injury? Siyi asked, raising his voice. Siyi's brows were tightly knitted as he looked at Yun Jian with worry written all over his face. Siyi had always been a man of action. He had pinned Yun Jian down on the bed with one hand and tugged at her underwear with the other. Xiao Jian, you'll be mine sooner or later. I'll take a look, it's fine. Don't be scared. As Siyi spoke, he had already pulled Yun Jian's underwear off. Yun Jian was so shy that she was about to curl into a ball. She quickly explained, it's a physiological phenomenon. It's not an injury. As long as it's a girl, it'll come. Yun Jian swore that she had never been so embarrassed in her life. Siyi did not even know this. Yun Jian, however, could understand. Siyi did not believe Yun Jian's words. He even bent down to take a look. He checked Yun Jian from top to bottom, only then did he believe it. Yun Jian had already sat back on the bed and put her clothes back on. Siyi believed her now. He was a little embarrassed, but once he thought about how he had seen his Xiao Jian's cough. After a while, Siyi walked out of the house. There were only Yun Jian and Siyi in the house. Yun Jian's pants were stained with blood, so she could not go out. Siyi's back was injured, but he could still help Yun Jian get what she needed. Siyi came out of the house and saw a group of country B's rural women sitting in the courtyard. Ye was here as well. When Ye saw Siyi coming over, she stood up quickly. Siyi was with Yun Jian. Yun Jian knew country B's president, so Ye's attitude toward Yun Jian and Siyi had changed completely. She dared not be rude to Siyi and Yun Jian anymore. After Ye stood up, Siyi walked over without a change in expression on his aloof face. When he reached them, he asked, "Do you guys have sanitary pads?" The women who were enjoying the shade stared at Siyi in disbelief when they heard him. This young man looked like a decent person and was ridiculously handsome. Why was his mind so dirty? What? Even Ye was stunned. Siyi repeated himself bossily, "I need sanitary pads. I'll give you 2 minutes to hand them over." Chapter 13:23. Even though country B was poor, women were still very conservative about their private matters. Usually, they wouldn't mention it in front of men. Even if they mentioned it in front of women, they would only talk about it in private. In spite of it, which man was like Siyi? Putting aside the fact that he was a man, how could he ask such a simple question in front of everyone? There was a group of men in the distance who were enjoying the shade. Where did this young man come from? A woman blushed when she heard Siyi's words. She was a little embarrassed. Ye quickly stood up. She didn't dare to provoke Yun Jian now. Hence, she turned to Siyi and said, I have it. Go back first, I'll bring it to you later." Ye just wanted Siyi to hurry back to the house. When Siyi heard that Ye would bring it to him, he walked towards Yun Jian's house without looking back. After Siyi's tall figure disappeared in front of everyone, Ye heaved a sigh of relief. Then, Ye said to the group of women standing behind her, "That was just a misunderstanding. Don't take it seriously." Now that Yun Jian and Siyi were living in her house, Ye felt that she had lost all face. However, Ye didn't dare to resist. I'll go take a look. You guys chat. Ye turned around and slipped away in front of everyone's eyes. In the house, Yun Jian was sitting on the bed with her hands on the bed. When she saw Ce enter the house, she turned around and pursed her lips. Her face was still red. Did you borrow it? She will bring it over. Ce walked towards Yunjian. He reached out and stroked Yunjian's hair. His eyes were filled with affection. Because Country B was poor, the women here made their own sanitary pads. Some even recycled them. However, after knowing that Yunjian was acquainted with Country B's president, you didn't dare to act rashly. Hence, you brought Yunjian a very clean one that no one had used before. After Yunjian had changed into a pair of loose pants, Ce pulled Yunjian outside the house to cool off. Ce didn't look embarrassed at all, but Yunjian's face was red. Ce was holding Yunjian's small hand and squeezing her hand in his big palm. At this moment, they were sitting on one of the few wooden benches in the courtyard, as leisurely as an old lady and an old man in the countryside. If Adam were to see them like this, he might laugh out loud and say that his young master and young madam were living the lives of old people. At this moment, a group of people suddenly rushed into the courtyard. Yunjian turned her head slightly and saw that the person leading the team was the village chief of Lameda. The village chief, Lambada, was leading a group of villagers towards Yunjian and Ce with hoes in their hands. She said that she knows our president, but that's a lie. I've already sent people to ask, how could our president meet such a small figure? Damn it, she dared to treat us like this yesterday. Today, we'll kill her. Whoever knocks her down will get this woman. Today, Lambada had brought a group of villagers over. At this moment, he was glaring fiercely at Yunjian, as if he wanted to get back at Yunjian for yesterday's anger. Hearing this, Ce's face instantly darkened. At this moment, a huge helicopter flew from afar to a nearby lawn. The sound of the helicopter's wings was deafening. When it was about to land on the ground, the helicopter's door opened. A handsome man with a scary scar on his neck poked his head out. He was carrying a short and fat middle-aged man, and he threw him out of the helicopter. After being thrown out, the man landed on the ground. The surrounding people were a little suspicious. Chapter 13:24. The short, plump middle-aged man who was thrown down from the helicopter by the handsome man with a deep scar on his neck was Country B's president, Pierre. Pierre was Country B's president. Village Chief Lambada had someone above him. When President Pierre traveled in the past, the village chief had caught a glimpse of him from afar. That was how Village Chief Lambada recognized Pierre as their country's president. Country B was small in size but had a large population, which was one of the main reasons for the country's poverty. Country B was also a country. To Village Chief Lambada and the rest, Pierre was perhaps an important figure that they would never see in their lifetime. Therefore, Village Chief Lambada and the rest were taken aback when they saw Pierre out of the blue. Especially when Village Chief Lambada and the rest had denied the fact that Yunjian knew Pierre. Now, they saw a strange man throwing Pierre down from the helicopter. Seeing this, Mayor Lameda and the rest of the villagers could not help wondering if the man with the scar on his neck who had thrown Pierre off the helicopter was in cahoots with Yunjian. Just as they thought about it, Pierre who was thrown to the ground had already gotten up. Village Chief Lambada and the rest were still in a daze. Snow Eagle who was standing on the helicopter jumped down handsomely from the helicopter that was at least 5 meters above the ground and landed steadily on the ground. After Snow Eagle jumped down, Snake Lizard followed suit. You found him. You should let me go now. Pierre asked weakly as he watched Snow Eagle and Snake Lizard walk past him. He shook his fat body and asked weakly. However, Snow Eagle and Snake Lizard ignored him. Snow Eagle and Snake Lizard went to Yunjian right in front of Village Chief Lambada and the rest. Snow Eagle went to Yunjian and Ce and greeted them respectively, young madam, young master. Snake Lizard, on the other hand, greeted them directly, Sister Jian. Village Chief Lambada and the rest knew that Snow Eagle and Snake Lizard were most likely Yunjian and Ce's men from the moment Snow Eagle and Snake Lizard appeared. Therefore, He wasn't too surprised at this moment, but he was still sweating in his heart. Especially Lambada village chief. One must know that just now, Lambada village chief had brought all the villagers with hoes to look for Yunjian. That was because village chief Lambada had heard from someone. That person said that if a nobody like Yunjian knew President Pierre, how could she appear in such a small place? That person said that Yunjian was most likely bluffing. Therefore, Luma Mata rushed over with his men. He tried to cause trouble for Yunjian. Yesterday, Yunjian had interrupted him, and her words were not so pleasant. The village chief had always remembered this in his heart. However, the moment he saw Pierre, he felt as if he had accidentally offended someone he shouldn't have. Therefore, Lambada swallowed hard and didn't dare to say anything else. Seeing the two people who had forcibly kidnapped him call out to Yunjian and Ce respectfully, Pierre wasn't stupid. He immediately reacted. Yunjian and Ce were most likely their bosses. Pierre stuck out his belly. After all, he was the president of Country B, so naturally, he couldn't show any fear. Therefore, Pierre ordered Yunjian and Ce, "You. Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? I order you to quickly release me. Otherwise, this is my country. When my soldiers chase you here, they will definitely." Before Pierre could finish, Yunjian, who stood opposite him, snorted and said, "You're not the only one. Pierre, looks like you still haven't learned your lesson from 4 years ago. Do you need me to kill all your ministers before you know your place?" Yunjian had also just debuted not long ago. Her mission was to assassinate Pierre's ministers. At that time, Pierre was so scared that he couldn't eat. Pierre hadn't heard a young girl's tone in a long time that could reach such a level. This young girl's tone. Why was it so similar to the woman in his memory who had killed countless of his ministers, and finally gave away half of the country's gold and silver treasures? Chapter 13:25. As Pierre spoke, he was so scared that he sat down on the ground. Pierre saw Yunjian gently raise her right index finger. She put her right index finger on her lips and made a shoo gesture that made Pierre feel that Yunjian was very strange. Pierre was so scared that he sat down on the ground. It wasn't because he felt that Yunjian's gesture was very strange. It was because of Yunjian. The shoo gesture she made just now was exactly the same as the gesture of the woman he had always been afraid of, who had even disturbed him for several years. Even when he saw her in his dreams, he would be scared awake. This also meant that the girl standing in front of him was indeed. Pierre didn't dare to say the word "kill" again. Because Yunjian made a shoo gesture. At this time, he saw Yunjian gently curve her lips. She looked at Pierre with a smile that hit a dagger. "Shoo, you didn't see anything, so nothing happened today. Otherwise, I don't recommend revisiting the old events of 4 years ago." Yunjian gave people the feeling that they felt their hair stand on end. It was a feeling of horror that came from the bottom of their hearts. Pierre couldn't help but shake his fat body, then swallowed his saliva. He really didn't dare to say anything. Their country B's president actually knew Yunjian. And looking at the situation, why did it seem that he was very afraid of Yunjian? The village chief, yeah, and the women and men standing around were all dumbfounded. "Let's go." Yunjian wasn't interested in what happened next. She looked up at Ce's handsome side profile and then said. As they spoke, the two of them walked over to the helicopter. A rope hung down from the helicopter. When the helicopter wasn't on the ground, people would pull this rope and climb up. Yunjian and Ce walked side by side to the helicopter. She suddenly saw a timid girl hiding in the distance and looking at her. It was Lily. Lily was looking at her from afar with a grateful gaze. Seeing Yunjian turn to look at her, Lily waved at Yunjian and said softly, "Sister, goodbye." Yunjian raised her eyebrows. She turned to look at Pierre and then pointed at Lily. "Pierre, I like this little girl very much. I've already acknowledged her as my little sister. If I hear any dissatisfaction from her the next time I come to Country B, I believe that with my ability, it won't be a problem to bomb Country B easily. It would be easy for the Kosha mercenaries to bomb Country B. Pierre was so scared that he quickly knelt down and kowtowed to Yunjian. How would I dare? I will definitely treat her as my own daughter. With Pierre's words, Yunjian believed that Lily would definitely be happy. Pierre knew her rules. Yunjian turned to look at Lily, only to see Lily looking at her and winking at her. Seeing this, Yunjian smiled faintly. Then, under everyone's gaze, she reached out and grabbed the rope hanging from the helicopter. In a few moments, she flew onto the helicopter. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to do this move so skillfully without practicing for 3 to 4 years. Therefore, the surrounding people were all dumbfounded. After Ce, Shuang, and Snake. Lizard boarded the helicopter, Shuang flipped over to pilot the helicopter. Shuang quickly left with Yunjian and Ce. As for the helicopter, there would naturally be someone to deal with it. Of course, this wasn't something that Yunjian and Ce could handle. It wasn't until Yunjian and Ce were far away that Pierre heaved a sigh of relief. Then, Pierre forced a smile at Lily. Pierre waved at Lily. He was so polite that Lamada and Ye felt a little awkward. Little girl, let me be your father in the future, okay? Do you want to live in the palace with me? I will definitely treat you very, very well. Chapter 13:26. There were only 4 people in the helicopter, Shuang, Snake, Lizard, Yunjian, and Ce. Qingyu did not come. She was still at the tea party in Country B, planning to accompany Doya and Charlotte to send Maina's body back to Country M for burial before bringing the 2 girls back to the Kosha mercenaries. After all, the Kosha mercenaries were hidden. If Qingyu did not stay to lead the way, Doya and Charlotte would not even know where the Kosha mercenaries were. Moreover, Doya and Charlotte did not possess astounding hacking skills like Yunjian. If they were to hack and search for the Kosha mercenaries' specific location, they would need to possess skills as strong as Yunjian's to locate the Kosha mercenaries. However, they did not. They did not even know what a hacker was. Because of what happened before, the time to return to China was delayed. When Yunjian and Ce returned to the country, it was already the 3rd of August. After sending Yunjian back to Longmen City, Ce returned to Anhun with Shuang. Yunjian was about to start school. Ce had planned to go to Min City with Yunjian. Yunjian was about to undergo a month of military training while Ce would go straight to Senior 3 when he enrolled, so he did not have to go through military training. He wanted to see Yunjian all the time. In spite of it, Ce had to return to Anhun personally to investigate who was the one who wanted him and Xiao Jian dead this time. Was it the mysterious person from Yulong mainland? Or was it someone else? This was a matter of life and death. He could not afford to be careless. Moreover, he was certain that there was a traitor in Anhun. Before he found Anhun's traitor, Ce would not give up. Hence, Ce could not say when he would return. Before they left, Ce hugged Yunjian and told her, Xiao Jian, I'll definitely bring our overseas marriage certificate back the next time I come back. At that time, it would be reasonable for him to want to do something to her. Of course, when he was looking for the traitor of Anhun, he could also sneak into the military training area to look for Yunjian. If Adam was standing here right now, he would probably clap his hands and shout that if his young master could resist sneaking off to Yunjian's military training grounds to look for her for a month, he would eat shit in front of Shuang and the other 2. If Adam was here and Ce heard his inner monologue, Ce would probably slap *T on Adam's head. After Ce left, Yunjian prepared to officially report to the Min City Military Academy. Xiao Jian, you have to take good care of your body when you go to school. You have to adjust your nutrition. Vegetarian and meat dishes have to be balanced. Don't be picky and eat everything. Girls your age, don't learn from others and try to lose weight. Let me tell you, Xiao Jian isn't fat. Don't lose weight like other girls. You have to eat your fill. Look at how skinny you are. Since Yunjian was going to school, Qin Yiru pulled Yunjian to sit on the sofa. Qin Yiru arranged a suitcase of clothes, placing them neatly into the suitcase and nagging at Yunjian. Yunjian finally lost the ability to listen to Qin Yiru's nagging. Although she had already taken Qin Yiru as her beloved mother now, she had no choice but to accept her as her beloved mother. "I know, Mom," Yunjian rubbed her forehead and interrupted Qin Yiru. Okay, I won't say more then. We have to get ready to leave now." "Oh right, Xiao Jian, did you bring enough change? Do you want me to get you some? You're taking the bus to Min City today and you'll have to take the bus back. I'll get you some change. Wait for me, I'll get it for you." Chapter 13:27. Qin Yiru was very naggy now, but she was not to be blamed. Anyone who saw their children about to leave them and enter high school, which also meant that their daughter was about to leave them and go to another city, would become like this. To Qin Yiru, no matter how extraordinary Yunjian's performance was previously, she was just her daughter in Qin Yiru's heart. She was just an ordinary girl. Yunjian did not want to listen to Qin Yiru's nagging, but she felt warmth in her heart. Being able to enjoy a mother's love was a luxury to her in her previous life. It was because she no longer had a mother. Yunjian felt that her rebirth was not in vain now that she was reborn and had a wonderful mother like Qin Yiru. She was even glad that she could be reborn because of the sandalwood box. Coming. I've brought the change." Qin Yiru was afraid that Yunjian would not wait for her and leave first, so she hurried down the stairs and stuffed a handful of change into Yunjian's hand. "Xiao Jian, take this. You have to come home often when you're free in the military academy," Qin Yiru said as she helped Yunjian lift the bulky suitcase and headed out. Yunjian carried a small, black, flashy backpack on one shoulder. There were no books in it, only a black pen, a butterfly knife, a bunch of razor blades, and 2 daggers. This butterfly knife was not the one made from the god-slaying blade. Yunjian had hidden the butterfly saber made from deicide blade with her. Unless she took it out herself, no one would be able to retrieve it from her. Moreover, Yunjian usually carried 2 butterfly knives with her now. One was made from Godslayer blade while the other was just a regular open-edged butterfly knife bought from a vendor. Yunjian hid the butterfly knife made from Godslayer blade on her at all times and would not dirty it when she did not need it. As for the other regular butterfly knife, Yunjian would throw it away and change it at any time if she dirtied it. Carrying the small backpack on one shoulder, no one would have imagined that Yunjian was such a sweet-looking girl with a hint of beauty and a delicate face that would mesmerize any man who saw her. What was hidden in the backpack were not books but a bunch of knives of all kinds. Seeing Qin Yiru snatching her bulky suitcase, Yunjian quickly went over to take it back and told Qin Yiru, "Mom, I'll take it myself." As she spoke, Yunjian did not let Qin Yiru take the suitcase from her. "Hey, child, Mom isn't old yet," Qin Yiru called out in relief. Qin Yiru sent Yunjian to the bus station personally and watched the bus leave slowly. After an hour or 2 of journey, Yunjian finally arrived at Min City from Longmen City. Yunjian pulled her suitcase to the entrance of Min City's military academy after getting off the bus. This was not her first time coming to Min City's military academy.
However, due to Yunjian's antics last time, her Year 1 and Year 2 classmates had already been promoted to Year 2 and Year 3. Year 3 students had already graduated. Moreover, this was the military training period, which meant that Yunjian would not see any familiar faces. Chu Ning and the other 5 were still on summer break. Only the new Year 1 students would rush to school to participate in the month-long military training. Even the instructors who were fighting to have Yunjian join their team would not appear during this month. As the school attached great importance to this military training, they had sent national senior instructors to train the new batch of students. Yunjian's lips curled up at the thought. She was looking forward to the senior instructors' training. Her new life would begin here as well.
Chapter 13:28. The school was still the same as the last time Yunjian came. The ground was very clean, but because a month of summer vacation had passed, there were a lot of fallen leaves on the ground. This also fully proved that the school was very environmentally friendly and green. There were fallen leaves, which meant that there were trees. A school with trees, the students who lived here breathed in the freshest air. Yunjian stepped on the hot summer day, not afraid of being exposed to the sun. She strolled from the school gate to the school's report board. Generally, when new students entered the school, they would look for their name on the report board and see which class they were in. Yunjian quickly found her name on the report board. At the top of her name was a big word, Grade 1 Class 2. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She gently slung her black shoulder bag over her shoulder. When she turned to leave, a girl suddenly rushed up from behind. The girl rushed up, and because Yunjian turned around, she lost her balance. However, the girl still forcibly bumped into Yunjian with the mentality that as long as she didn't get hurt, it didn't matter what others did. Or maybe it was because she was unhappy with Yunjian standing there and wanted to fiercely push Yunjian away. She moved closer to the report board and bumped into Yunjian with her shoulder. If it was an ordinary person, they would probably have been hit. Yunjian just narrowed her eyes. She didn't even turn her body. She just moved her feet slightly to the side and moved her body away from the girl's momentum. The girl didn't stop for a moment and actually bumped into a boy who was standing in front of her. He was at least 200 pounds and reeked of sweat. This boy's body reeked of sweat. The smell was so strong that the girl who tried to push Yunjian almost vomited her breakfast. The surrounding people were all young boys and girls who were in puberty. When they saw the girl pounce on a boy, they all shouted, "Oh!" The girl quickly pushed away the boy who reeked of sweat. Then, she quickly reacted and pointed at Yunjian and scolded her, "Why did you dodge just now? If you didn't dodge, I wouldn't have bumped into him. And I wouldn't have made a fool of myself. If I don't dodge, am I supposed to let you hit me?" Yunjian sneered. She ignored the girl and walked straight to class 1, 2, with her shoulder bag. No matter how the girls shouted behind him, he ignored them all. After Yunjian entered the classroom, she casually found a seat and sat down. She was surrounded by new classmates. Yunjian did not know them, and they did not know Yunjian either. Even the teachers and students sitting on the podium did not recognize any of them. After Yunjian placed her shoulder bag on the seat and sat down, the girl sitting beside Yunjian suddenly expressed her goodwill. "Hello, my name is Lin Wan. What's your name?" Seeing that someone was trying to please her, Yunjian replied indifferently, "Yunjian." She had always been a cold person. The girl named Lin Wan did not take offense. Instead, she smiled at Yunjian and asked, "Yunjian, your name is very nice. Can we be friends?" Since they were unfamiliar with this place, most girls were used to looking for friends first. And Yunjian nodded slightly. This Lin Wan was very interesting. As she spoke, she always liked to say things that could make people laugh. Soon, the girls sitting around Yunjian were all amused by Lin Wan and laughed. Even Yunjian could not help but smile. After talking for almost 10 minutes, Yunjian suddenly saw a person walk in through the door. This person was the girl who scolded Yunjian on the report board. Yunjian lowered her eyes. Such a coincidence? Just as she was thinking this, Lin Wan had already pulled Yunjian's hand and said, "Yunjian, can you accompany me to the restroom?" Yunjian agreed. Lin Wan gave her a good first impression. When the two came back from the restroom, Yunjian suddenly saw that her small black backpack had been thrown on the ground. All kinds of knives in the backpack were exposed in front of the surrounding students. The girl who scolded Yunjian on the report board was now stepping on Yunjian's small backpack. Seeing that Yunjian had come back, the girl laughed a few times and mocked. TSK, this student's backpack doesn't even have a single book. Heh, it's full of knives. We're a military school, but what are you trying to show by having knives in your backpack? Are you trying to show that you're special? Or do you want others to think that you're different from us? Chapter 13:29. This girl was very arrogant. At this moment, the homeroom teacher sitting on the podium went out. It was probably because the homeroom teacher went out that the female lead was so arrogant. Moreover, the girl could not forget how she had bumped into a fat, sweaty boy when Yunjian dodged like that when she was in the report column. She was a clean freak. And most importantly, the scene just now was seen by many students. These students all shouted and kicked up a fuss. The girl couldn't tolerate this the most, so when she saw that Yunjian was in the same class as her, she wanted to take revenge. The students in the class didn't know each other, so they were all strangers. So when they saw the girl attacking Yunjian, they were all a little confused. But it was undeniable that the girl opened Yunjian's small bag. When the students saw that Yunjian's small bag was filled with all kinds of knives, they were all instantly stunned. Yunjian saw the girl stepping on her bag. Before she could say anything, Lin Wan, who was standing beside Yunjian, grabbed Yunjian and walked up angrily. Lin Wan looked at the girl angrily. She gritted her teeth and said, "Classmate, what do you mean by this?" Lin Wan was not only a girl who liked to joke, but she was also very righteous. It did not matter what the girl had come to Yunjian for. But at this moment, it was obvious that this girl was looking for trouble with Yunjian. Yunjian lowered her eyes. She simply stood aside and didn't say anything. However, the scene of Lin Wan standing up for her made Yunjian's eyelids twitch slightly. "Who do you think you are? This matter has nothing to do with you. If you know what's good for you, then scram." The girl saw that Yunjian's expression didn't change at all. She was angry, but when she saw Lin Wan standing up for Yunjian, she shouted back. "Classmate, are you crazy? You're scolding people as soon as you open your mouth. Besides, you bullied my friend. How is it none of my business?" Lin Wan sneered at the girl. She walked over and pushed the girl away. Then, she picked up Yunjian's small school bag from the girl's feet. The girl was pushed by Lin Wan. Before she could react, she staggered back 2 steps and steadied herself. Then, she pointed at Lin Wan and shouted, "How dare you treat me like this? Do you know who I am? Let me tell you, my father is." This girl obviously didn't have much ability. After being pushed by Lin Wan, she didn't dare to fight back. Lin Wan's pushing strength was not something an ordinary girl should have. The eyes of the surrounding boys lit up. Even Yunjian raised her eyebrows slightly. "The teacher is here. The teacher is here." At this moment, someone suddenly shouted a few times. Then, a group of people rushed back to their seats. The girl who caused trouble just now was called Lin Shia. Lin Shia originally had some ability. However, after facing Lin Wan, she was frightened by the strength of Lin Wan's push. Now that she heard that the teacher was here, Lin Shia also quickly sat back down. However, before she left, she turned her head and glared fiercely at Yunjian. It was as if she was saying, "This is not over." After Lin Wan helped Yunjian pick up the small school bag, she hid all the knives scattered on the ground back into the small school bag. Then, she pulled Yunjian's hand and went to the toilet. "Yunjian, I'll help you wash the outside of the school bag. It was quite dirty from being stepped on just now," Lin Wan said very kindly. Yunjian didn't refuse. Just now, Yunjian didn't make a move and didn't show her strength. This made the students in the class think that Yunjian was really just a weak girl. Look, she was bullied like this and didn't even dare to fight back. In the end, she even asked her friend to stand up for her. They didn't know that it wasn't that Yunjian didn't dare to fight back. It was just that she had just arrived in a new environment and didn't want to become the center of attention. Chapter 1330. This black backpack was bought by Qin Yiru for Yunjian some time ago, so Yunjian naturally couldn't throw it away. At the entrance of the girls' washroom, Lin Wan was helping Yunjian clean her backpack very carefully and seriously. "Yunjian, your backpack is so beautiful, hey." Lin Wan rushed to help Yunjian clean her backpack. "Thank you." Yun Jian thanked Lin Wan politely when she saw how serious the latter was in helping her clean her bag. It was not supposed to be her job anyway. Don't be so polite. Huh, we'll be good friends from now on. Lin Wan turned her head and gave Yun Jian a big smile, then she wiped the last stain on the black backpack. Here, take it. Lin Wan said and returned the backpack to Yun Jian. Then Lin Wan and Yun Jian returned to the classroom together. When they returned to the classroom and sat down, the homeroom teacher was already standing on the podium. Seeing that all the students were in place, the homeroom teacher cleared his throat and introduced himself. Hello everyone, my surname is Chu. I believe you can tell my gender. As for you, you can call me Teacher Chu. You've just entered high school, and I believe that most of you here are coming to military school for the first time. Our high school is different from ordinary schools. Our military school focuses on physical strength and practice. Moreover, there are more boys in the class. I've counted the girls, and there are more girls in our class than other classes. There are a total of 6 girls. Of course, this means that the boys in our class have to be good protectors. Don't let the girls in our class get bullied. Teacher Chu was a male teacher, but his words were quite humorous and witty. Standing on the podium, Mr. Chu walked back and forth, talking as he walked. After a while, all the students in the class laughed heartily. Even Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Sure enough, military school was the most suitable place for her. Normal schools, be it junior high school, or university, were all focused on learning. Physical education classes were pitifully few in a week. The military academy was the exact opposite. Physical training was the most important. After explaining the basic precautions, Chu Laoshi continued to say, let's go to the cafeteria and have lunch. We'll gather in the classroom at 12:30. We'll prepare to leave for military training. Remember to bring your suitcases. The location of our military training is not in the school. As for the dormitory in the school, we will arrange it after the 1-month military training ends. After Mr. Chu arranged everything, he told everyone to disperse. There was only one large canteen in the military academy, but the canteen had all kinds of dishes, and they were quite sumptuous. As soon as Yun Jian and Lin Wan arrived, Lin Wan exclaimed loudly, "Wow!" However, before Lin Wan could pull Yun Jian to line up in front of the canteen window, they were blocked by Lin Shuya and the group of girls she brought. If they were not mistaken, the group of girls behind Lin Shuya were the ones in the class other than Yun Jian and Lin Wan. She actually managed to rope in the other girls in the class so quickly. Lin Shuya pointed a finger at Yun Jian and yelled at her, "What the hell? Let me tell you, your previous behavior has already made me very angry. If you know what's good for you, quickly kneel down and apologize to me. Then I can still forgive you. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you now." Lin Shuya took the lead to stir up trouble, which made the freshmen of the other classes who passed by stop and take a second look. After all, it was not common to take the lead to stir up trouble like this. Today, they encountered a good show as soon as school started, so they had to stop and take a look. Lin Shuya put her hands on her hips and looked at Yun Jian arrogantly. The surrounding students also sized up Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian's pupils contracted fiercely, and she suddenly walked towards a certain part of the canteen. Lin Wan was just about to stand up for Yun Jian when she saw that Yun Jian had already walked towards a certain part of the canteen. Seeing this, Lin Wan hurriedly called out, Hey, Yun Jian, where are you going?" Yun Jian ignored her and walked straight to a certain corner of the canteen. Then, she came to a girl about 16 or 17 years old and reached out to grab a seemingly ordinary white stone that was strung up by a red string around the girl's neck. Yun Jian's eyes darkened, and then she turned to look at the girl. The sharp refraction in her eyes made the girl with the white stone suddenly tremble. Chapter 1331. Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya. Instead, she walked up to a female classmate from another class that she didn't know at all. She reached out and picked out the white stone hanging around the female classmate's neck, and then asked again. When Lin Shuya saw this, she thought that Yun Jian deliberately wanted to make a fool of herself in front of everyone. She thought that Yun Jian was deliberately ignoring her, or that she wanted to attract attention in the cafeteria. Some girls in puberty especially like to show a different side of themselves from other girls, so they attracted the attention of boys. Lin Shuya immediately thought that this was Yun Jian's purpose, so she stood in place and smiled coldly at Yun Jian in front of all the boys and girls in the cafeteria. Deliberately mystifying, what are you pretending for? Just now in the classroom, I purposely dropped your bag. What's the matter? Now you want to pretend to be very powerful? Lin Shuya's words made the surrounding students pick up their gazes and look at Yun Jian again. However, they saw that Yun Jian was not affected at all. Her deep and beautiful eyes stared at the girl sitting at the cafeteria table eating. The girl was frightened by Yun Jian's stare. She quickly reached out to pull the red string in Yun Jian's hand. The white stone was tied to the red string. The red string was hung around the girl's neck. The girl wanted to pull the red string back, but she pulled it twice, but the red string did not move. Yun Jian had no intention of returning the white stone to the girl. On the contrary, Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya, who was standing behind her and insulting her loudly. She looked at the white stone fiercely, and then repeated in a loud voice, "Stone, where did you get it?" It was not a question, but an absolute questioning tone. Yun Jian had never shown such an expression in front of outsiders. But after seeing this white stone today, she slightly lost control. The reason was simple. This was just an ordinary stone, but the front of the stone was engraved with a letter that was so blurry that if one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't even be able to see what it was, MY. On the back of the white stone, there were two blurry letters, SS. SS naturally referred to slaying God, who was also Yun Jian herself. As for the word MY, Yun Jian didn't know what it meant in Chinese, but Yun Jian knew that it represented the little girl Yun Jian knew in Han when she was young. The little girl who hugged her every night in the cruel assassin organization, comforting her not to be afraid and telling her, "We have to be fine, we will definitely be able to go home." But in the end, the little girl did not return home. Instead, for the sake of Yun Jian, the other girls in the organization worked together to cut off all her limbs and dig out her heart before she died. In the end, her corpse was fed to the wolves. The person who should have died was Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't know the little girl's name. She only knew that the little girl was MY and she was SS. This white stone might be nothing to others. When they were in the assassin organization, Yun Jian and the little girl used a sharp stone to carve the stone stroke by stroke. The little girl said that with it, they would be able to find their way home one day. But in the end, the little girl died and the stone disappeared. But she never forgot the promise she made to the little girl. It was not that Yun Jian had never looked for this white stone, but she couldn't find its whereabouts no matter how hard she searched. She didn't expect to see it here. Chapter 1332. You. Why do you have the same reaction as the girl I met just now when she saw this stone? Just as Yun Jian stared at the white stone for a long time without moving her eyes away, the girl holding the white stone suddenly spoke. Originally, it was already very surprising to see this white stone here today. In this world, not everyone had the chance to be reborn. Yun Jian was an accident, Xiao Yunju was a miracle. But not everyone had such a fortuitous encounter. Everyone only had one life. If they missed it, they wouldn't have a second chance. Suddenly hearing what the current owner of the White Rock, the girl in front of her, said, Yun Jian looked up at the girl abruptly. With a cold expression, she reached out to grab the girl's wrist and questioned, "What are you talking about? What did you say?" "It hurts. It hurts. You. Let go first. It hurts." The girl's wrist was suddenly grabbed by Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't control her strength at this time, so the girl was almost in tears when Yun Jian grabbed her wrist. A few girls sitting next to the girl also shouted at Yun Jian, "Student, what are you doing? Can't you see that my classmate is in so much pain that she's about to cry? Let go first." Hearing this, Yun Jian let go first. The girl heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that she was indeed hurt by Yunjian's grab. Sorry. Yunjian said softly. Before the girl could react, she immediately asked, "Where is the girl you said had the same reaction as me?" The girl's unintentional words made Yunjian's eyelids suddenly twitch. Originally, Yunjian just wanted to ask the girl where the stone came from. But the girl's words directly made Yunjian crazy. Yunjian suddenly had a premonition. It's from our school's shooting range. Just now, when we went to the school, we saw her standing there alone, shooting targets. Oh yes, her shooting skills are very accurate. Yunjian couldn't listen to the girl's words anymore. Yunjian turned around and ran towards the entrance of the cafeteria. Just as she ran in front of Lin Wan, Yunjian stopped for a moment. Then she asked Lin Wan, "Do you know where the shooting range is?" "I know, but Yunjian, why are you going to the shooting range?" Take me there." Yunjian raised her voice. Seeing this, Lin Wan ran to the shooting range with Yunjian. Lin Shuya and the group, who were standing in place, were stunned. In the end, Lin Shuya laughed coldly. Then, Lin Shuya took the lead to break the atmosphere. Hee, she's pretending. Even the actors in dramas can't be compared to her, right? Let's go, let's see what kind of tricks she's up her sleeve. With Lin Shuya's organization, the people present were really a little surprised about what Yunjian was going to do. Therefore, the group of people noisily chased in the direction Yunjian went. Among the people who went, Yunjian wasn't the only one from grade 1, 2. Now, there were only new grade 1 students in the school. Grade 2 and grade 3 were still on summer vacation. At this moment, most of the grade 1 students who were eating in the cafeteria followed Lin Shuya to join in the fun. Lin Shuya organized all the grade 1 students to follow Yunjian to the shooting range. Her main purpose was to see Yunjian make a fool of herself in public. At this moment, Lin Shuya couldn't help but think in her heart, "Hey, this time, Yunjian wants to make a fool of herself. It has nothing to do with me." When Lin Shuya brought a group of people to the empty shooting range, she saw that Yunjian had already walked towards the only girl standing in front of the shooting range. The girl's back gave Yunjian a sense of familiarity. At this moment, Yunjian already had a big smile on her face. This girl's back overlapped with the little girl who had been protecting her in the organization. Thinking of this, Yunjian suddenly pulled out 2 daggers from her waist in front of everyone. Then, she clasped the 2 daggers in each of her palms and silently rushed towards the girl's back in front of everyone. Seeing this, the group of students who were standing far away widened their eyes in surprise. Some of them even shouted, "What?" Chapter 1333. At this moment, even Lin Shuya, who had been trying to guess what Yunjian was thinking, was stunned. After being stunned, Lin Shuya revealed a sneer on her face. She even stretched out her hand and waved at the crowd. "I think she just wants to be in the limelight, humph." The two of them must have agreed in advance. "If you don't believe me, just wait and see." Lin Shuya suddenly thought of such an explanation, so she said it out loud. In the end, even Lin Shuya believed that Yunjian's dash toward the only girl standing in front of the shooting target must be what was going on. This matter was most likely something that Yunjian and the girl standing in front of the shooting target had agreed in advance. Their purpose was to be in the limelight in front of the whole school. Then, they deliberately mystified themselves and made it seem like they weren't creatures from this earth. They're really crazy. Do they think we can't see it? They directed and acted out a good show themselves. He, do they really think we're all fools? As soon as the last word, fell, Lin Shuya turned her head to look at the large group of students standing behind her who had followed her to watch the show. However, she saw that the large group of students who had followed her to watch the show suddenly widened their eyes. Lin Shuya was shocked. She also turned her head and saw a shocking scene. Originally, Lin Shuya, as well as all the students present, thought that Yunjian was just taking out the knife for show. After all, they were in school now. No one would dare to kill someone so boldly, right? Moreover, after listening to Lin Shiya's words, the surrounding group of students thought that Yun Jian was taking out the knife for show. Therefore, the students were misled by Lin Shiya's words, thinking that Yun Jian was really just a scheming girl who wanted to be in the limelight in front of the whole school. However, right at that moment, the crowd turned their heads to look, and they just happened to see such a scene. They saw Yun Jian holding 2 daggers in each hand. Her figure was like lightning, rushing toward the girl. Her feet stepped on the ground, but there was no sound at all. The blade of the dagger in her hand was facing the ground as she gripped it with the back of her hand. In just a few moments, Yun Jian was already sprinting towards the girl at a speed that was too fast for the naked eye to follow. Within 5 breaths, she was already behind the girl. At this moment, the girl showed no signs of turning around. Seeing this scene, the people standing in the distance held their breaths. Oh my God, is she trying to kill someone in our school? How dare she kill someone in the military academy? She's crazy. Hurry up and call the teacher over. Someone is going to die. Some people in the crowd had already realized that something was wrong, so they began to shout loudly. However, it was too late. Yun Jian dashed in front of the girl in a few blinks. She held the 2 daggers and stabbed the girl's back. Oh my God. Some of the people watching from afar had already covered their faces. However, in the military academy, there were more boys and only a few girls. Therefore, the boys present did not cover their eyes, but they all looked over in horror. The dagger in Yun Jian's hand was less than 3 centimeters away from the girl's back. Ah! The girl in the distance was already screaming and trembling. It was also at this moment that the girl standing in front of the shooting target suddenly placed the sniper rifle without gunpowder behind her back. The sniper rifle that the girl was using for training stopped Yun Jian's daggers at a distance of 3 centimeters. Seeing this familiar technique, Yun Jian's lips curled up slightly. She suddenly turned sideways and threw her body forward. Then, she did a light somersault in the air and kicked the girl's abdomen, who had already turned around. The girl was stepped on by Yun Jian. She took 3 steps back, but stood firmly on the spot. Then, the girl saw Yun Jian clearly. There was a trace of tears at the corner of her eyes. When she saw Yun Jian clearly, the girl paused for a few seconds and held back her tears. She said, "I knew that with your strength, you would definitely survive and fulfill your promise to me. I'm very glad that you're still alive." Yun Jian also smiled. There was a trace of moisture at the corner of her eyes, but it did not fall. Chapter 1334. What live? What do you mean by fulfilling your promise to me? Aren't the 2 of them still alive and standing right in front of me? Moreover, how did the 2 of them get their shocking skills from just now? Lin Wan, Lin Shiya, and all the other students who were standing in the distance were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. What was going on? Lin Shiya didn't know anything else, but Lin Shiya knew that she was indeed stunned when she heard the nonsensical conversation between Yun Jian and that girl. When Lin Shiya recovered from her shock, she was even more disgusted with Yun Jian. Seeing that all the students standing around her were sizing up Yun Jian and that girl, Lin Shiya was very unhappy. So Lin Shiya began to clamor again. "Everyone, don't be fooled by the 2 of them. They must have agreed beforehand and then deliberately said some strange words and did some strange actions for us to see. I don't know what they're up to." Lin Shiya's words successfully made the group of girls around her shout like the wind. The girls thought that Yun Jian and that girl were deliberately showing off, which made the group of girls around them extremely envious. So after being provoked by Lin Shiya, Yun Jian and that girl who looked enchanting and slightly charming quickly became the public enemy of all the girls present. However, Yun Jian and the girl standing in the distance didn't care at all. "Let's go to the dormitory building. There's no one there." The girl standing in front of Yun Jian put the sniper rifle back on the long table in the shooting range, and then led Yun Jian to a place. There were too many people here, and some things weren't good to talk about. Yun Jian nodded slightly, and then she turned her head to look at Lin Wan, who was standing not far from her. You go to the cafeteria first. Okay. Lin Wan nodded after she reacted. After Yun Jian finished speaking, she didn't even look at Lin Shuya and the others in the distance. She and the girl walked away in front of everyone just like that. Hey, you. Lin Shuya wanted to take everyone to chase after them, but she was stopped by Lin Wan. Student, what are you trying to do? My friends have something to say. Do you want to invade their privacy by following them? My grandfather is a lawyer. Do you believe that I will sue you? Lin Wan stopped Lin Shuya and the others, helping Yun Jian and the girls gain some personal time. Originally, Lin Shuya wanted to chase after them, but when she heard Lin Wan say that her grandfather was a lawyer, Lin Shuya was a little scared. She stood where she was and stomped her feet, but didn't chase after them. In front of the dormitory. Today, they came to school because the military training for the freshmen had begun. The location of the military training was not within the school, so the students did not stay in the dormitory. Therefore, no one walked around the dormitory building. It was so quiet that even the sound of cicadas could be heard clearly. Yun Jian and the girl stood facing each other. I thought I'd never see you again, the girl broke the silence and said. Me too. Yun Jian's voice was slightly hoarse, but from her expression, there was no change in the slightest. Even though Yun Jian's heart was fluctuating, no emotional changes could be seen on her face. Actually, I didn't die at that time, so I could be considered dead. The girl spoke at this time. As she spoke, she grinned at Yun Jian casually. I think we should get to know each other again first. My name is Mu Ying. Back in the organization, my was just an abbreviation of my name. Chapter 1335. Mu Ying smiled, then stopped smiling. She looked at Yun Jian from head to toe before continuing. You're very strong. I'm afraid I can't last more than 3 moves against you now. You're the only one who completed all the missions of an Han organization and escaped from their control. You didn't disappoint me. Mu Ying was only 9 years old when she died. She only stayed in an Han organization for a few years. Even so, anyone who grew up in such an environment would not be simple. Tell me about yourself. Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at Mu Ying with narrowed eyes. Only then did Mu Ying smile. She put away her smile and said in a serious tone, at that time, I did die. But fortunately, before my body was thrown to the wolves, my brain was extracted by a perverted doctor. Maybe you'll understand better if I explain it this way. That means, I'm still me now. My thoughts are all the same, but this body is not my own. My body has already been eaten by wolves and dogs. This body now belongs to a little girl. Back then, that perverted doctor transplanted my brain into the body of that little girl who had already died, and only then was I revived. He saved me so that I could pretend to be a little girl and accompany the little girl's family. Heh, don't you think I'm lucky? That crazy doctor is the only scientist in the world who can transfer a person's consciousness to another person's body. I'm also his first successful experiment. But unfortunately, he passed away 2 years after I took over this body. Now that I have a new family as a little girl, I'm very satisfied. Mu Ying summarized her life story in a few sentences. Yun Jian was shocked when she heard that. There was actually someone in the world who could transfer a person's consciousness to another dead person, turning that person into another person. But since she could be reborn, then this wasn't so unbelievable anymore. Isn't it unbelievable? Haha. However, after I turned into a little girl, I didn't give up on training. When I was in high school, I immediately applied for the Min City Military Academy. I just didn't expect to meet you here again. Mu Ying told Yun Jian what had happened to her, but she didn't ask about Yun Jian's experience, nor did she dare to ask. The less she knew about Yun Jian's background, the safer she would be. Mu Ying had been in an Han for some time, so she understood this. Moreover, Mu Ying didn't want to participate in the world of assassins and secret agents from her previous life. As for why Mu Ying had been training her strength non-stop, it was partly due to the influence of the idea of the winner being king in her previous life. She wanted to become stronger. On the other hand, it was because Mu Ying's current family, her grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, and even relatives, were all soldiers. It could be said that Mu Ying's current identity was the little princess of a military family. Growing up in such a family, Mu Ying couldn't do it if she didn't have some capability. Yun Jian liked people like Mu Ying who didn't ask about her current identity. She smiled faintly at Mu Ying. Then, let's put aside everything from the past and get to know each other again. As she spoke, Yun Jian extended her hand again and placed it in front of Mu Ying, reintroducing herself. I'm Yun Jian from Zhe Province's Longmen City. I'm 16 this year, a freshman. Mu Ying was touched by Yun Jian's words. Life was unpredictable. Back then, they were prepared to die in Anhun. Being able to leave Anhun was already a luxury for them back then. Mu Ying held Yun Jian's hand with tears glistening in her eyes and introduced herself again. I'm Mu Ying from Min City, a freshman from Class 9. Nice to meet you. Chapter 1336. After explaining things to Mu Ying, Yun Jian and Mu Ying went to the cafeteria to get some food. The things that happened in Anhun organization did exist, but Mu Ying said that she was no longer the same person in Anhun organization. She would try her best to forget her past. Because the current Mu Ying had her own happy family. This meant that Mu Ying and Yun Jian's life trajectories were no longer the same. Mu Ying went to the cafeteria with Yun Jian for lunch. Middle school and high school meals were different. Middle school meals were fixed meals, while high school meals were free to order by swiping cards. Although it was the first day of school, the homeroom teachers had already distributed meal cards to each student when they first arrived in the classroom. After lunch in the cafeteria, Yun Jian parted ways with Mu Ying and went to her classroom. Yun Jian, over here. Before they reached class 1, 2, Lin Wan was already waving at Yun Jian not far from the door. The homeroom teacher, Mr. Chu, was leading the class. All the students had already gathered at the door with their respective suitcases and backpacks. Yun Jian smiled at Lin Wan and walked into the classroom. She slung her black backpack over her shoulder and dragged her suitcase out of the classroom. She stood at the door and gathered with the other students. Mr. Chu stood at the front. When he saw that most of the students who went to the cafeteria for lunch had returned, he opened his mouth and said, "The school bus that will take you to the field training camp will be here in a while. I will briefly explain the rules of your military training. This year's freshman's military training is the strictest in history. Moreover, this year's freshman's military training will be in the field training camp. Basically, it will be actual combat. There will be specialized instructors to explain the specific matters to you when you get there. Later, you will all be assigned to your respective tents. Regardless of wind or rain, you will be living in tents for the next month." To put it bluntly, it was to train the students' survival skills in the field. As soon as Mr. Chu finished speaking, the surrounding students cried out in pain. Oh my God! Military training in the wild. Are they trying to tire us to death? Lin Wan began to shout after hearing the news. After screaming twice, Lin Wan turned to look at Yun Jian. Seeing that she was not afraid at all, Lin Wan asked Yun Jian in shock, "Yun Jian, aren't you afraid? I heard that it's possible to encounter poisonous snakes and beasts during military training in the field. Should I be afraid?" Yun Jian turned to look at Lin Wan and said softly, "Pfft, some people really think that they are invincible just because they were in the limelight in front of everyone. TSK, don't get scared to wake up in the middle of the night and cry, 'Mommy, I want to go home.'" When Lin Shia, who was standing not far away, heard this, she quickly spoke to Yun Jian in a mocking tone. Lin Shia did not believe the strength that Yun Jian displayed in front of everyone just now. Not to mention Lin Shia, when the people present saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying's actions, it was likely that no one present believed that Yun Jian and Mu Ying's true strength just now. After all, this was the first time that the new batch of high school freshmen came into contact with the military academy. Before this, everyone came from ordinary high schools and no one deliberately trained their skills. In that kind of field training camp, it's normal for girls to be afraid. At most, I'll lend you my shoulder to lean on. Chapter 1337. Su Haocheng, you still want to take advantage of the girls in our class? Move aside. As soon as the boisterous boy finished speaking, a lean, good-looking boy immediately walked over and pushed away the boisterous boy named Su Haocheng. Damn, you're asking for a beating, aren't you? The boy named Su Haocheng quickly started fighting with the lean, good-looking boy. Although the students in the class didn't know each other before today, they were all able to play and laugh together very quickly. Just like Lin Wan, although it was her first day meeting Yun Jian, she was also very used to talking to Yun Jian. Are you guys listening to me or not? Seeing that the people around her were all talking and completely ignoring her, Lin Shia was so angry that she lifted her foot and stomped. But in the end, Lin Shia's voice still softened. After a while, Lin Shia suddenly curled her lips. She seemed to have thought of something, and so she smiled very proudly. Shia, when you were eating in the cafeteria just now, didn't you tell us that your cousin is a senior in the second year? This time we're going to the field training camp for military training. Your cousin was invited by the school to come back early to accompany us, right? Then you should know what the field training camp leader looks like now, right? Hurry up and tell us. Will there be any danger during the field training period? Also, your cousin must be very powerful, right? Otherwise, he shouldn't have the ability to be personally invited by the school to come back and lead us, right? Lin Shia had just finished laughing cockily when a girl standing next to Lin Shia, who had already resolutely become Lin Shia's little follower, said Lin Shia's cockiness in front of everyone. If she didn't say it, no one would know. Once she said it, the surrounding people all looked at Lin Shia with astonished eyes. Seeing the surrounding people looking at her with astonished eyes, Lin Shia felt that she was floating. She fiercely glared at Yun Jian, who was standing next to her, before Lin Shia began to brag. My cousin is one of the most powerful students in the second year of our military school, and my cousin has been training Taekwondo, Sanda, and Judo since he was young. Speaking of this, Lin Shia looked at Yun Jian again, trying to see a stunned expression on Yun Jian's face. To Lin Shia's disappointment, however, Yun Jian maintained her nonchalant expression as if nothing could catch her eye. There was not even the slightest change in her expression, let alone being surprised by what Lin Shia said. Seeing this, Lin Shia became even angrier. Since the first time she met Yun Jian had dodged her and caused her to bump into a fat and sweaty boy. Until now, Yun Jian had maintained that aloof face that was unpleasant to the eye. Lin Shia felt that she had to tear Yun Jian's face apart or her name would be written upside down. Yun Jian didn't react, but that didn't mean that the surrounding people didn't react. According to Lin Shia, her cousin actually knew Taekwondo, Sanda, and Judo. He could be considered to have everything. Wow! The surrounding students exclaimed loudly. Even some of the boys exclaimed, "That's awesome." Yun Jian only raised her eyelids slightly, not taking it seriously at all. The school bus is here, the school bus is here. Everyone, hurry up and get ready to get on. Teacher Chu walked over at this time. After counting the number of people in the class, she waved and led all the students to the school bus. One school bus for each class. The military academy was quite wealthy and generous. By the time the students arrived at the field training camp, it was already 3 in the afternoon. Chapter 1338. Field Training Camp. The name sounded quite advanced, but in reality, the location of the field training camp was set in a rural village in Min City. The village was called Banqiao Village. It took about 2 hours to get to Banqiao Village from Min City Military Academy. Since the school bus had to carry more students and the school bus was rather large, if the driver drove too fast, there was a high chance of danger happening. With this in mind, the driver drove slowly and steadily. When Yun Jian and the rest arrived at Banqiao Village, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The field training camp was located in a small forest and a small hill. The school bus could only drive to Biyao village. To get to the field training camp, they had to walk from Biyao village to the field training camp. They had to walk for about half an hour to get to the training camp that was uninhabited. They had just gotten off the school bus and were not in a hurry to set off. Biyao village was a village, and there were more older people living in the village. Yunjian's class arrived early, so they had to wait for the new students from the other classes to arrive at Biyao village. Then, the instructors would lead them into the mountains. Of course, before that, the school had to distribute food and tents to each student for them to bring into the mountains. After Yunjian and Lin Wan got off the bus, they sat on a piece of cement in front of a house in Biyao village to rest their feet. After waiting for about 10 minutes or so, they saw a slender, enchanting, and slightly charming girl walk down from another school bus. She was as delicate as a little princess. It was Mu Ying. When Mu Ying saw Yunjian, she walked over to Yunjian. When she saw Yunjian and Lin Wan sitting on the cement, she walked over and sat down as well. "We'll be entering the mountains soon." Mu Ying pressed her hands on the cement and turned to look at Yunjian with a smile. "I miss it," Yunjian smiled. When they were in an Han group, there was a period of time when the group threw everyone into the Amazon forest and did not give them anything. For 6 months, they were left to fend for themselves in the Amazon forest. When it came to food, they had to do it themselves. If they encountered a venomous snake or a ferocious beast and didn't have any tools, they had to fight it with their bare hands. That was the worst time Yunjian had ever been in an hun. At the same time, those 6 months were also the best time for her to improve her strength. The Amazon forest was a dangerous forest where every species in the world lived. An average person would not survive more than 3 days in there. To be able to fight his way out of that place and survive for 6 months. Today's military training was nothing to Yunjian. But even so, Yunjian would treat it with 100% enthusiasm. Ying. Just as Yunjian and Mu Ying were chatting in low voices, lowering the atmosphere slightly, Lin Wan was about to remedy the situation when a male voice sounded. Yunjian raised her head slightly and saw a boy in a military uniform walking towards them. The boy looked to be around 18 or 19 years old. He was walking towards Mu Ying. Mu Ying raised her head and looked at the boy. She lowered her head and asked calmly, "Why are you here?" "The school invited me to come back early to lead you guys. You guys don't have any foundation in the first year of high school. It's easy for you guys to get into trouble by coming to the field training camp," the boy explained. He laughed dryly. Seeing Mu Ying's attitude towards him, his smile was bitter. Seeing Yunjian and Lin Wan sitting beside Mu Ying, the boy paused for a moment. He then introduced himself to Yunjian and Lin Wan. "Hello, I'm Leng Hanja. I'm in my 3rd year of high school. I should be your senior." Chapter 1339. Leng Hanja and Mu Ying knew each other, and Leng Hanja was the son of Mu Ying's parents. Ever since he was young, Leng Hanja liked Mu Ying and had always been by Mu Ying's side, protecting her. About 8 or 9 years ago, Mu Ying accidentally got into a car accident and was declared dead. However, in the morning hall, Leng Hanja remembered that a crazy and perverted doctor suddenly said that Mu Ying wasn't dead. Then, the funeral ceremony didn't take place that day. A few days later, Mu Ying was indeed resurrected. However, ever since that day, Mu Ying's eyes were only cold. Even the way she looked at him was cold, without any warmth. Until today, Leng Hanja still secretly liked Mu Ying. Even when he called out to her, her reply was as cold as a stranger's. Returning to reality, Leng Hanja had just pointed at the seniors who had come with him, when a delicate figure suddenly rushed over from the side. Lin Shia flew over to a boy standing beside Leng Hanja who looked thin but was actually very strong. Lin Shia grabbed the boy's hand in front of everyone and shouted happily, "Cousin, you're finally here." Hee hee. When she shouted this, Lin Shia's voice was very loud, as if she couldn't wait for everyone in the world to know that this boy was her cousin. The surrounding students were quickly attracted by Lin Shia's shout. Especially when Lin Xia showed off her cousin before. Her cousin was an expert in taekwondo, sanda, and judo. When the surrounding students heard the shout, they naturally turned their heads to take a look. Seeing this, Lin Xia turned to look at Yunjian smugly. Now you have nothing to say, right? Lin Xia raised her chin proudly. Han Ming, is this your cousin? A boy standing beside Lin Xia's cousin laughed and glanced at Lin Xia, then asked Lin Xia's cousin. Han Ming was Lin Xia's cousin's name. Yes. Han Ming patted Lin Xia's shoulder and laughed loudly. His face was in high spirits, showing the attitude of a winner in life. Yun Jian and Lin Wan stood at the side and were blatantly ignored. Today, Yun Jian was wearing ordinary clothes. In addition, she was sitting on the cement stone. In order not to steal the limelight, she deliberately lowered her head and didn't let others see her face, so naturally, she was ignored. Just as he said this, he suddenly saw a farmer limping over here in the distance. He ran to the instructors who were standing not far away from Yun Jian and begged for help. Officer, help, he said. There was a wild boar as big as 2 people. We've never seen such a big wild boar. Several villagers have already been injured. Officer, please save us. The village was a village and a village was a village. When the instructors heard this, they hurried over. One of the instructors frowned and turned to look at Leng Hanja. Hanja, you and your team leaders come with us. With your current strength, you should be able to help a little. Yes. Leng Hanja and the others quickly responded. Hearing that there was a wild boar as big as 2 people, the surrounding students were dumbfounded. Ying, I'll go. I'll be back soon. Leng Hanja turned to look at Muing and said. Just as Leng Hanja and the others were about to turn and follow the instructors, a girl's voice rang out. I'll go too. Leng Hanja and the other seniors who were leading the team, as well as the surrounding students, were all stunned. They then turned to look at Yun Jian, who spoke. You're a girl, so stay where you are. This is not something you can handle with your strength. Leng Hanja glanced at Yun Jian and said. That's right, don't be in the limelight. He, someone like you. Lin Xia seized the opportunity and rushed to scold Yun Jian. Chapter 1340. Muing had always been cold and distant in front of Leng Hanja and the others ever since she was saved by the crazy doctor from a car accident 8 or 9 years ago. Sometimes, she would even sit in a corner with her head lowered and stare at the ground with her dark eyes. No one could guess what she was thinking about. After that, Muing had been acting strangely. She had always been quiet in front of others. She was quite understanding in front of Leng Hanja. Today, when she heard Leng Hanja and Lin Xia questioning Yun Jian's strength, what Muing said in front of Leng Hanja and the others was the most she had said in the past few years. Therefore, Leng Hanja and the others were stunned. What shocked Leng Hanja and the others even more was what Muing said. What, Ying, what did you say? She survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months with her bare hands? Leng Hanja was stunned. Lin Xia was stunned. All the students around them were stunned. Even the instructor who was accompanying the farmer to the wild boar stopped in his tracks. Everyone looked at Yun Jian in shock. Looking at Yun Jian's skinny frame, they were stunned. The Amazon forest was the forest with the most species in the world. At the same time, there were all kinds of dangerous creatures in the Amazon forest. Just thinking about it was enough to know how dangerous it was. If a normal person entered the Amazon forest, they might not even survive for 3 days. Not to mention 6 months. These 6 months did not mean that one could stay in the Amazon forest and not encounter any dangerous creatures. Then, one could count the days. For 6 months, one had to eat every day and face all kinds of venomous snakes and beasts. Yun Jian survived there for 6 months? How is that possible? How could she survive in the Amazon forest for 6 months? How old is she, and she? Lin Shuya tried to find words to refute Yunjian's prowess, but as she spoke, her words became incoherent. Cousin, say something. Even an expert like you who knows Taekwondo, Sanda, and Judo wouldn't dare to go to such a place, right? She's a woman, how could she? Lin Shuya didn't want Yunjian to be the center of attention. She was anxious to find any words to deny Yunjian's power. She even brought the topic to her cousin, Han Ming. You girls shouldn't talk nonsense. The Amazon forest isn't a place where you can go as you please. At your age, I'm afraid you don't even have passports, right? You can't even leave the country without a passport. I'm afraid you haven't even left the country before, right? So don't talk nonsense. Han Ming also had a strong desire to show off. He didn't want to see someone stronger than him, not to mention that the other party was a girl. After hearing Han Ming's words, the people around her seemed to suddenly understand. Was it Muing herself who was bragging about Yunjian? How old were they? He probably doesn't even have a passport now, right? Moreover, they were all ordinary students who had graduated from middle school. How would they have the time to stay in the Amazon forest for 6 months? Most importantly, would a normal person run into the Amazon forest like a crazy person? This was simply an impractical thing. Yunjian ignored these people's words. She walked straight to the farmer. Muing didn't bother to say anything else. She followed Yunjian. Lin Wan was stunned for a moment before she followed with her long legs. You're talking nonsense, aren't you? He, you fantasized that you stayed in the Amazon forest for 6 months. Who doesn't know about this fantasy? Seriously, whoever believes you is an idiot. Seeing this, Lin Shuya thought that Yunjian and Muing were exposed by her and her cousin, so they ran to the side in embarrassment. Just as she thought this, she saw Yunjian walking to the farmer who was standing beside the instructor. Grabbing the farmer's collar, Yunjian pulled him out and told him coldly in front of everyone else, "You're the one who's being bullied by me." Chapter 1341. Yunjian was indirectly accusing the farmer of forgetting his companions who were still in danger because of other things. Everyone was stunned. Just now, everyone thought that Yunjian would explain something in the face of Lin Shuya and Han Ming's doubts. After all, boys and girls in puberty didn't want to be refuted by anyone. But Yunjian didn't. Not only did Yunjian not do that, but she even walked over and grabbed the farmer's collar, giving him a simple lesson. The farmer was stunned by Yunjian's words. Then, he quickly reacted. His companions were still in danger, so the farmer scratched his head and quickly led the way. Here. Yunjian let go of the farmer's collar. She didn't even look at the group of senior instructors and students standing behind her. She just walked forward and followed the farmer. Muing also followed Yunjian's footsteps. Lin Wan shouted, "I'm going too," and also strode forward. "We're going too." Standing in place, the senior instructors from all over the country were stunned. They were shocked. They weren't even as conscious as a new girl in high school. On the other side, the matter of the wild boar attacking people was not over yet. They actually stood in the same place because of the shocking news. They were stunned silly. The senior instructors chased after her, and so did Leng Hanja and the others. "Hey, you're all going." "I'm going too." Lin Shuya was still unwilling to see Yunjian in the limelight in front of everyone. She paused twice and then chased after her. So many people had gone, and there were instructors protecting them. No matter how dangerous it was, it wouldn't involve them. Thinking of this, the students who were standing in place all ran over. There was a hillside near Banqiao village. In the depths of the hillside was a forest, and outside the hillside was a flat land. Originally, this place was very quiet. The village would often gather farmers and go into the mountains from here to cut firewood. At this moment, there were at least a dozen farmers standing there. At this time, each of them was holding a hoe in their hands. Directly opposite the dozen farmers, a big and fat wild boar the size of 2 adults was letting out a muffled howl. It looked like it would pounce on the farmers at any time. The wild boar's hair was gray and black, which was completely different from domesticated pigs. Domesticated pigs weren't aggressive, but wild boars could attack people. If one looked carefully, one of the dozen farmers were already injured. Why isn't old Wang back yet? We can't hold on any longer. A farmer, who had just been bitten in the stomach by a wild boar, curled up in pain, shouted. What should we do? This wild boar is too strong. Even with more than 10 of us, we can't suppress it at all. Someone shouted again. However, if one were to look closely, this wild boar, which was as big as 2 people, was also slightly injured. Its abdomen had been slashed, and blood was gushing out. Why is this beast so difficult? Even with more than 10 of us, we can't suppress it. Someone shouted hatefully. Awoo. Just then, the wild boar opposite them roared and was about to launch its final attack on the dozen farmers. F***ck, we're finished, someone shouted in despair. At the same time, he held the hoe in his hand even tighter. Chapter 1342. This clear and beautiful female voice seemed to have a bit of magic, causing everyone present to be stunned. One by one, they were affected by this voice and all stepped to the side, making way for her. It was also at this moment that a figure as fast as lightning shuttled through the dozen of farmers, heading straight for the wild boar that was the size of 2 adults not far away. Heavens, that's a little girl. She's going to die. There are so many of us, but we're no match for that wild boar. Little girl, come back. Come back. When the farmers saw that the newcomer was just a little girl in her teens, they all shouted in panic. A group of people rushed over from afar. They were the instructors, Leng Hanja, Lin Shia, and the others. Crazy, crazy, this little girl is crazy. Save her. Come with me to save her. When the instructors saw the size of the wild boar, one of them took the lead and rushed over. Looking at the faces of these instructors, each and every one of them was extremely gloomy. These instructors were all senior instructors from all over the country. Naturally, they were different from ordinary instructors. Therefore, the instructors quickly reacted and chased after Yunjian. Who asked her to be so arrogant? I think she should just die in the wild boar's hands. How dare she try to harm our instructors? Shameless. Lin Shia casually said angrily. Ming, control your cousin. Don't spout nonsense. When Leng Hanja heard Lin Shia insult Yunjian in such a tone, he knew that Yunjian was special to Muing. Leng Hanja and Han Ming were friends. Both of them were members of the Min City Military Academy's student union. Lin Shia was Han Ming's cousin. Leng Hanja didn't know Lin Shia, but he was very familiar with Han Ming. Therefore, under such circumstances, Leng Hanja turned to look at Han Ming and said, Hey, Zhe, it's my cousin's mouth. I can't do anything about it. When Han Ming heard this, he helplessly waved his hand at Leng Hanja. Slap. Before Han Ming could finish his words, a sharp slap sounded. This slap was directly aimed at Lin Shia's face, and she was thrown to the ground in front of everyone. Leng Hanja and Han Ming didn't even have time to react. By the time she reacted, Muing had already warned Lin Shia coldly and solemnly. My hands are stained with blood. If I hear you say anything bad about her again, I don't mind making you one of the dead souls under my blade. Muing had killed a lot of people. Although she didn't kill as many people as Yunjian, she had lived for 9 years in an Han organization. 9 years old meant that Muing had been in an Han for 4 years. To be able to survive in an Han for 4 years, he must have killed a lot of people. In her previous life, Muing was 1.5 years older than Yunjian. Mu Ying's current body was smaller than before, but it was exactly the same size as Yunjian's current body. Otherwise, according to Mu Ying's actual age, she should be 18.5 years old now. Mu Ying's strength was very fierce, so Lin Shia's heart jumped fiercely. However, Lin Shia was still angry. Lin Shia was about to stand up and curse Muing, saying, "It's useless for you to lie to me." But she was suddenly shocked by a figure in the distance. Yun Jian pulled out an ordinary butterfly knife from her small bag in front of the instructors, farmers, and the students who came later. She held the butterfly knife in her hand and ran towards the wild boar nimbly. Seeing this, the wild boar also ran towards Yun Jian. The two figures came and went, and the people in the distance couldn't help but hold their breaths. Yun Jian ran past the wild boar, so fast that the people in the distance couldn't even catch a glimpse of Yun Jian's figure. The people didn't even see Yun Jian's movements clearly. She had already flashed past the wild boar and stood behind the wild boar. After that, she gently threw the bloodless butterfly knife back into her small school bag. Everyone was surprised. That wild boar hadn't been killed yet. How did she? Ow. Just as everyone was thinking this, the wild boar suddenly howled, and then fell to the ground in front of everyone's eyes. When everyone came to their senses, they all stared with their eyes wide open. Her knife, her speed, was actually faster than the speed at which the wild boar spat out fresh blood after being stabbed in its vital parts. Wherever the knife passed, there wasn't a single trace of blood on the tip of the knife. How fast must one's knife skills be to achieve this? Was she really just an ordinary female student? At this moment, even the senior instructors who were trying to catch up and stop Yun Jian stopped in their tracks, dumbfounded on the spot. Chapter 1343. The instructors were all senior instructors in the country. They had trained countless students, and they had even brought the students to the field training camp for military training many times. When they had time, military schools like high schools and universities would often organize students to participate in activities such as survival in the wild. The ones who led the students to participate were all senior instructors present. With the addition of the word senior, they were a little different from the usual military training instructors. Since the senior instructors began their military training career, countless things had happened. There were students who couldn't stand the military training in the field training camp and cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. There were also incidents similar to wild beasts attacking students. But which one of these incidents wasn't resolved by the instructors themselves? But this little girl in front of them? This little girl in front of them used a butterfly knife and killed this wild boar that even a dozen farmers couldn't kill. Not only that, she killed the wild boar with a single slash. The speed at which she twirled the blade was so fast that even the blood on the wild boar's body didn't splatter on the blade. What kind of speed was this? What kind of person could reach this level? The instructors had never seen such terrifying knife skills in a person, let alone a person who could use such terrifying knife skills. She was just a female student. Wow. Oh my god. Yun Jian, you're too cool. Ah. From today onwards, I'll be your #1 fan. Lin Wan clapped and screamed on the spot. On the other side, Yun Jian turned her body slightly, her sharp eyes seemingly reflecting a powerful glint. Then she smiled at Lin Wan and Muing. Leng Hanja and Han Ming, who were standing behind the instructors, were extremely shocked. The students who followed them were also stunned, and their mouths were trembling in shock. As for Lin Shia, she was embarrassed as much as she doubted Yun Jian's strength. I thought this wild boar would be strong, but I didn't expect it to be so weak. Yun Jian put away the butterfly knife and walked towards Muing with light steps. Others might not know, but how could Muing not know? Yun Jian didn't want to be in the limelight. In other words, Yun Jian came to the military training today because she wanted to improve her strength. The improvement of one's strength was not something that could be achieved by just talking or practicing in private. That required actual combat, survival in the jungle, and experience. When she heard that there was a wild boar as big as 2 people, Yun Jian became restless because she wanted to kill this wild boar and increase her strength in the process. But he didn't expect this wild boar to be so weak. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the surrounding farmers all lowered their heads in shame. Did she just say that this wild boar couldn't withstand a single blow? Just now, they were forced to the point where they couldn't fight back by this wild boar, wasn't it? relying on his little bit of ability to start showing off again. Lin Shia was not reconciled this time, and began to speak in a low voice again, but this time, Lin Shia did not dare to speak too loudly. After all, Yun Jian had real strength. Mu Ying and Yun Jian ignored Lin Shia. Mu Ying's red lips curled up slightly, and she walked towards Yun Jian. Under the surprised gazes of Lang Hanja, Han Ming, and the others, she spoke to Yun Jian again. Then after the military training is over, shall we go to the Amazon forest again? As she spoke, Mu Ying was already standing in front of Yun Jian. She smiled slightly, and then seemed to have thought of something, and said, "Let's go and see that old man on the way. Without that old man's help, I wouldn't be where I am now." Yun Jian and Mu Ying were thrown into the Amazon forest together by an Han organization, and both of them survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months each. Yun Jian relied on her own strength to survive. Mu Ying was almost bitten to death by a poisonous snake, and when she was about to die, she was saved by a strange old man who was stationed in the Amazon forest all year round. Ordinary people did not even dare to spend the night in the Amazon forest, but that old man lived in the Amazon forest for 40 to 50 years. Mu Ying mentioned this to Yun Jian before, and although Yun Jian had never heard of that old man, she really wanted to meet him. Now that Mu Ying mentioned it again, Yun Jian smiled. "Sure, after the military training is over, we'll go back to the Amazon forest for a walk." At this moment, Yun Jian and Mu Ying's words were undoubtedly the focus of everyone's attention. Lang Hanja and the others were dumbfounded when they heard Yun Jian and Mu Ying make it sound so easy to go to the Amazon forest. Everyone was stunned. After Lang Hanja reacted, he quickly said, Chapter 1344. Lang Hanja was truly concerned about Mu Ying. Lang Hanja had fallen in love with Mu Ying since he was 7 or 8 years old when he first saw her. Mu Ying was kind to him when they were young, although she did not show any signs of liking him. Even so, Lang Hanja still liked Mu Ying from the bottom of his heart. However, ever since Mu Ying's car accident, Lang Hanja could not see through Mu Ying. Lang Hanja and Mu Ying's parents were family friends. They grew up together and could be considered childhood sweethearts. However, Lang Hanja had always been secretly protecting Mu Ying and secretly liked Mu Ying. The reason why Lang Hanja did not believe Mu Ying's words about going back to the Amazon forest was because he had been protecting Mu Ying since they were young. To put it bluntly, even if Mu Ying went to the toilet, Lang Hanja would know when she went to the toilet. He just did not say it out loud. As for Mu Ying going to the Amazon forest, he had never seen it. He had never seen Mu Ying go abroad. Moreover, Lang Hanja would never think that Mu Ying was no longer the Mu Ying of the past. Lang Hanja knew that he liked the current Mu Ying. He liked her so much that he was willing to hide his love for her and not let her find out. He was willing to protect her secretly. Mu Ying frowned when she heard Lang Hanja's words. She knew that Lang Hanja liked her. However, she could not let go of anyone and had never let go of anyone. Perhaps it was because of her childhood experience that she could not love someone boldly like a normal girl. At least, she could not love him now. "It's none of your business, it's my business." Mu Ying was still smiling at Yun Jian, but when she looked at Lang Hanja, her face instantly turned cold. Seeing this, Lang Hanja clenched his fists. His heart turned cold, but in the next second, he said to Mu Ying seriously, "Ying, you can go if you want, but take me with you." If she wanted to go, he wouldn't object. But if he wanted to go with her, then even if she was in danger, he could protect her. He might not be that powerful, but he would protect her even if he had to give up his life. "It's up to you," Mu Ying said indifferently. "Ha ha ha ha. Ha ha ha." Right at this time, Lin Shiya's laughter suddenly sounded. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She gently turned her head and saw Lin Shiya holding her abdomen, laughing so hard that she couldn't stand straight. When the people around heard Lin Shiya's laughter, they all looked over. At this time, Lin Shiya had finished laughing. She looked at Yun Jian. The hatred in her eyes could be seen by anyone. However, Lin Shiya looked at Yun Jian. She said to Yun Jian very mockingly, "Still want to go shopping? Did you hear what she said just now?" She said she was going to go shopping in the Amazon forest. Ha ha ha. Does she think the Amazon forest is her home? Shopping? I'm dying of laughter. Also, Yunjian, do you really think you're invincible just because you killed a wild boar? Let's not talk about how many talents there are in the world. There are plenty of talents in Country Z. Do you think you're invincible just because you killed a wild boar? I'm dying of laughter. Ha, do you think you're the leader of an international assassin organization like those movies? Do you think you have countless assassins and secret agents working for you? Chapter 1345. Lin Shiya's laughter infected almost all the students. However, after hearing Lin Shiya's words, the surrounding students felt that it was indeed reasonable. That's right, it's just killing a wild boar. There are many powerful people in this world. We are still young, so we can't be so conceited. The little follower standing next to Lin Shiya immediately raised his head and agreed loudly. After hearing Lin Shiya's words, especially her sentence, "Do you think you have countless assassins and secret service agents working for you?" Yunjian's cold lips curled up slightly without anyone noticing. Yunjian ignored Lin Shiya. You can't say that. This little junior is really capable. At least, she killed that wild boar just now. This is an ironclad fact. In short, I believe what she said just now. Just when Lin Shiya was a little unconvinced, a slightly more mature female voice sounded. Hearing this, even Yunjian couldn't help but turn her head to look. She saw a girl in her late teens walking over. The girl was wearing the same military training camouflage uniform as Leng Hanja and the others. Her tall and slender figure was wrapped in the camouflage uniform, and she looked enchanting and charming. The girl was also good-looking. Even though she was wrapped in a loose uniform, one could still see her slender figure at a glance. The girl walked over. Her face looked amiable. She smiled slightly, giving off the feeling of a gentle big sister. Senior Lingling? Lin Shiya was dumbfounded when she saw the girl speaking up for Yunjian and walking toward them. She glanced at the girl blankly before asking. Senior Lingling, didn't you already refuse to return to school early to lead the military training for the freshmen? Han Ming, who was standing next to Lin Shiya, was obviously very familiar with the girl who suddenly appeared. He opened his mouth and asked. The girl who was called Senior Lingling was called Wen Peeling. She was a senior in Min City Military Academy. Like Leng Hanja and Han Ming, she was also a member of the Min City Military Academy's Student Council. Leng Hanja was the president of the Student Council, and Wen Peeling was the vice president of the Student Council. Although they weren't in the same grade and class, Leng Hanja, Wen Peeling, and Han Ming often met at the student union meetings. As for Lin Shiya had gone to the Min City Military Academy to look for Han Ming before, so she knew Wen Peeling through Han Ming. In addition, Wen Peeling was very kind, giving people the feeling that she was a big sister, so Lin Shiya and Wen Peeling got close. I had something to do at the last minute, so I went back to school early. I was thinking about the school's invitation, so I had to come over to greet the freshmen, Wen Peeling explained to Han Ming. Then Wen Peeling waved at Lin Shiya. Shiya, I haven't seen you for a few months and you've become more and more beautiful. Don't be so angry in the future, or you'll get wrinkles easily. Wen Peeling's words made Lin Shiya cover her face. Lin Shiya changed the way she bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Yunjian and stuck her tongue out at Wen Peeling. Got it, Senior Lingling. It had to be said that Wen Peeling had some skills. She was older, so she got along well with people. After greeting her acquaintances, Wen Peeling turned around to look at Yunjian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan. Hello, I'm Wen Peeling, your senior in the 3rd grade. Wen Peeling smiled at Yunjian and the others. Her smile was very sweet. After smiling, Wen Peeling turned to look at Yunjian. She smiled at Yunjian and continued, Junior, what's your name? You were really good just now. Also, I believe what you said just now. As she spoke, Wen Peeling winked at Yunjian and Mu Ying. Chapter 1346. Yun Jian, what a nice name. She's as beautiful as you. When Peeling praised Yun Jian greatly. This time, Yun Jian just pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Okay, if there's nothing else, go back to Banqiao village. We'll be distributing the food and tents later, and you'll have to change into the military training camouflage uniform. Since the matter had been resolved, and it was getting late, one of the instructors stood up and said, "Let's go back to the dormitory for a while." As soon as the instructor spoke, the students all retreated to Banqiao village. "Let's go too." Lin Wan turned her head to look at Yun Jian, then at Muing, and then said, "Okay." Yun Jian nodded gently. When the three of them were about to leave, the senior instructor who urged the students to go back to Banqiao village called out to Yun Jian in time. "Wait, you're Yun Jian, right? Please stay for a while, I have something to tell you." Seeing the instructor call out to her, Yun Jian's eyes moved slightly. She nodded indifferently, then turned her head to Muing and Lin Wan and said, "You two go back to Banqiao village first. Okay, then come over quickly later." Muing and Lin Wan knew that Yun Jian was stopped by the instructor, so they both nodded and walked back. "Ying, don't walk so fast, wait for me." Leng Hanja saw Muing walking in the direction of Banqiao village, so he quickly ran after her. Lin Shia looked at Yun Jian, snorted coldly, and left with Wen Peeling and Han Ming. After the surrounding students all left, the senior instructor who called out to Yun Jian just now came up. The surrounding senior instructors hadn't left yet. But the other senior instructors were a little confused when they saw the instructor call out to Yun Jian. The dozen or so farmers standing around hadn't left yet. Although this wild boar was ferocious, after the wild boar died, its meat tasted even better than domesticated pigs. Naturally, the villagers would not let go of such a delicacy. Now, more than a dozen farmers were planning to divide this wild boar. Seeing that Yun Jian was stopped by the instructors, one of the farmers came over and stood in front of Yun Jian. He looked at her with a bright smile and said sincerely, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, Yun Jian. Little girl, I'm the village chief of Banqiao village. Thank you for your help just now. My wife will be cooking dinner later. I'll bring the wild boar back and let her cook it. It's very fresh. You must come to my house for dinner later." The farmer who claimed to be the village chief was very enthusiastic. "Thank you for your kindness, but I have to go into the mountains with my classmates later, so I won't be staying for dinner." Yun Jian rejected the village chief's kindness. The village chief was a reasonable person. He knew that Yun Jian was going with her classmates, so he did not force her. After the dozen or so villagers carried the big and fat wild boar away, the senior instructor who called out to Yun Jian spoke to Yun Jian in front of all the slightly surprised instructors. "You're Yun Jian, right? I'm Zhou Jiren. You may not know me, but it's okay, I know you. You're the Advanced Special Forces soldier with the codename Killing God under old GE's command, right? Oh, right, you're from Team Monarch." Once Instructor Zhou finished speaking, the eyes of the instructors around him lit up. Could this be the Killing God who led the Zhe province army to join forces with the Kosha mercenaries and in Han to wipe out the Inferno Ring? Another instructor exclaimed in shock. This group of instructors came from all over the country and were the best team of instructors in Country Z. Like the senior instructors present, what kind of talent had they not seen before? However, they had never seen a talent like Yun Jian. They had heard of Team Monarch's Killing God a long time ago and heard that she was a girl. Chapter 1347. Looking at the surprised eyes of the instructors, Yun Jian didn't feel proud of herself for being able to make these senior instructors from all over the country gasp in amazement. She was different from the average student, so naturally, she wouldn't feel proud of herself for making the senior instructors in front of her stunned. "Just say what you want, I don't like to beat around the bush." Looking at the instructor who stopped her just now, Yun Jian's expression didn't change at all as she said it out loud. Even in front of so many instructors, Yun Jian wasn't afraid at all. Looking at Yun Jian like this, the instructors present were all stunned. Instructor Zhou was also stunned for a moment. Obviously he didn't expect Yunjian to say this. If it was any other adolescent boy or girl, they would definitely be proud of themselves. But what about Yunjian? She wasn't even afraid of saying the wrong thing in front of the instructors. Ahem. Instructor Zhou covered his mouth and coughed lightly to show his embarrassment. He did have something to talk to Yunjian about. But just now he planned to chat with Yunjian for a while, planning to get familiar with Yunjian before talking about business. But since Yunjian saw through it, then Instructor Zhou didn't plan to hide it anymore. Ahem, I do have something to talk to you about. Instructor Zhou said, paused, then continued. It's like this time our military academy's military training will last for about a month. In the past, there weren't many military training sites in the field, and the students didn't have any experience before this. But for this year's freshmen, the higher-ups issued a new notice, saying that in the last 7 days of this month's military training, you have to participate in a field survival activity. During the activity, there will be danger, if you are willing to participate, but once you complete the mission in the activity, you will be transferred to the school's newly planned elite class to receive better training. This elite class is your year's batch. The school's teaching and research team has just decided to open it. If it's done well, they plan to open an elite class for every batch after your year, so, Instructor Zhou rambled on, making Yunjian frown a little as she listened to him. She interrupted Instructor Zhou coldly, get to the point. Being interrupted by Yunjian out of the blue, Instructor Zhou felt a sense of seriousness like she was his superior, so he corrected himself right away. In short, there will be a survival activity for the students in the last 7 days of the military training. Those who successfully complete the activity will be able to join the elite class. I want to ask you to do your best to ensure the safety of the other students during the survival activity. This wilderness survival activity is voluntary, right? How can you be so sure that I will choose to participate? Yunjian crossed her arms and looked at Instructor Zhou. Under the gaze of all the instructors, she did not show the slightest bit of fear. On the contrary, Instructor Zhou was now Yunjian's superior. However, the instructors standing next to him had an illusion. It was as if Yunjian, who was standing in front of Instructor Zhou, was their leader and superior. What was with this feeling? You will definitely participate. This time, Instructor Zhou said very confidently. Because as long as you join the elite class and study in our school for a year, or if you perform well for half a semester, you will have the opportunity to represent our Z country and be directly sent to the South American hunting school to participate in the Special Forces training. Instructor Zhou's words successfully attracted Yunjian's attention. The hunting school was a world-famous Special Forces training center. The elimination rate of students enrolled in the school was 50% to 80%, and the death rate was extremely high. But if she could be trained, she would definitely be able to compete with the Secret Service assassins trained by the ordinary Secret Service assassin organization. If she entered the hunting school and returned from the training, Yunjian's strength would definitely double from her current foundation. Even more powerful than in her previous life. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.